Hello and welcome back to Scrap, the YouTube channel where I react to content. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video, kind of like a live section of MoistCr1tikal. Now, obviously, live content can sometimes be, you're live and you maybe say something you don't really, you haven't thought it through and stuff and all that sort of stuff like that. That can be taken up. But this is like more of an opinion piece from him, and it's a reaction of his actually to a video about how kurzgesgt is basically a propaganda machine by the hated one. So yeah, let's go ahead and watch the reaction to the Look At a YouTube channel, which gets funded by Billionaires. Let's get into it right about now. Now, I didn't give him a credit because I don't really like giving people credits for bad people. I don't like giving bad people credits. But basically, just to say, legally speaking, this is a MoistCr1tikal video, in case you're wondering. So
the core of the argument is the channel, and I always get the name wrong, so I'm not going to bother. But the channel I've been
is that or the hate one? I feel like you should get that one.
A fan of for a while is apparently funded by Billionaires, so they're making the argument that they do
a lot of the issue with a lot of like content which is good in like the visuals, and this happens with like a lot of content actually on YouTube, which is like it's very good in visuals. It looks very good, but then when you actually see the visuals, like what they're depicting, what the voiceover is actually saying, it's a very good quality microphone. It's much better quality than this one. When you hear that, then you start to hear problems, because then you start to hear propaganda. This happens a lot with these channels, like a lot. I've discussed, before the streaming service Nebula, that is filled. Johnny Harris, for example, is awful when it comes to it. Like, just full on propaganda, wall to wall, just ignoring certain facts, presenting this sort of thing, and it's really a massive issue. But it is good content, if you know what I mean. Like, it is well presented, and that's the issue. People like it because it looks good and it has nice sound and it's well edited, but it's not good in voice. So what were they actually saying to you? So the issue is that is a very shallow look at content. That's not to blame you if you're a fan of this content, by the way. I'm just saying, objectively, this kind of makes you a bit shallow when you don't even think about what it's saying to you. What exactly is that content saying to you? I am not, I'm not trying to put in some content in here. I'm not trying to do that. But that I don't agree with most right-wing points. That's for anyone who doesn't realize that is a fact. I don't agree with most right-wing points. So, to explain it to you, but if you're a channel and you're not listening to this, you just think, oh, yeah, good content, and you watch it, and then that seeps into your brain. Even sometimes when you don't even agree with what they're saying, you, by always watching it, you just continue. It sort of like gets in there, and then nestles into your mind, and you go, oh, I remember that story. What were they saying? Yeah, I guess you're right in a way, because I remember that story. And then because it disconnects away from the actual content, because it isn't just a fascist shouting at you like Alex Jones or Ben Shapiro. Doesn't really shout, but you know what I mean. It isn't that kind of content. It's a lot less rememberable as this is propaganda outright. This is an actual fascist. This is a right-wing person, or this is someone who's funded by someone who wants to have an investment pay off. And that's an issue, because that becomes a problem. Because instead of having this thought of like, oh, this fascist said this, it's, oh, this person said this. I don't know, I forget who they were, but they're making some good points. That's the thing.
do less, what's the right way of phrasing it? They do content that favors their investors' perspective.
I'm not sure they're investors, but they are supporters. But they could be investors as well. Who knows?
Interests, as opposed to more just factual and unbiased looks at topics. But then I saw that it mainly boiled down to a lot of the things they call out is their optimism when it comes to things.
Just for your information, I did watch a bit of this video in advance. I generally try to watch none of the video in advance, which is why some of my videos aren't that great. I do pull some of them off. I was going to react to a video, for example, of Russell Brand before. He was making some awful points, but it was just like so bad. I was like, I'm not dealing with this. I just decided to abandon it. That's the thing. So I've cut videos before, but this one I did watch before a little bit. So just to clarify there, you shouldn't watch videos in advance really if you're going to react to them, you know, because it should be your live reaction.
Which I think is a really weird argument to make. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with taking a sad topic or like a scary
This is the
topic.
issue, though. This kind of idea of optimism. The thing is, though, there's a difference between being optimistic and just being wrong. You know, like if let's say someone has stabbed you, right? But I go, I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure doctors will be able to fix that. No, I'm not gonna bring you to the hospital. No. I'm sure there'll be no problems. What are you gonna do though? You can't just sit back and go, oh, I'm sure everything will be fine. If you go, yeah, I'm sure like solar panels will just appear in everyone's houses. Turn the oil burner on, will you? Yeah. We just need to get some electricity in this joint. That's an issue. You can't just go, oh, everything will be fine, lads. I'm sure innovation will get us this, and do nothing. Do something. Obviously, ordinary people, not much you can do in your lives as such. What I'm saying is, not much you can do to change your lives, except there is something you can do, which is force corporations, force them to not have this privatization model. And this is the issue, which is currently a lot of the climate things are controlled by corporations. Solar panel industries have made a killing, and EV manufacturers, for example, are making loads of money off of their in profits. That's an issue. Lithium batteries are terrible for the environment, and that's a problem. Promoting that is an issue because it's like, well, you do need to solve this issue, which is we shouldn't have so many cars, and we should have public transport. That public transport should be electric, sure, but the electricity should come from renewable resources, and the batteries that you get this from should not be lithium. They should be like sodium batteries. These things need to be discussed, and they are discussed, but they're not actually presented in practice. You know, because if they're not going to make you any money, they're not going to be actually used. So, you as a person, you need to push that. You can't just have this optimistic notion of, yeah, I'm sure everything will be fine. Optimism doesn't work in this serious scenario.
And trying to find an optimistic explanation for how we could conquer it or what it could mean or how it could be improved. I don't really understand. I haven't watched it, so maybe the video is a little more nuanced than that, but that's what I've seen the whole discourse on Twitter about.
Lads, famously Twitter, the most reliable place for all your opinions. I think most people agree that Twitter is unreliable. People who are left wing, people who are right wing. You know, people who are right wing like, it's a woke place filled with, you know, it's like, okay, no, it's not. It's a private company. It was a private company controlled by a board who were focused on profits. Didn't really manage to make much, you know, didn't manage to make much for a few years, and then it got bought out by a, you know, evil little racist piece of shit, billionaire who likes to do market manipulation, allegedly, and, you know, technically not illegal, apparently, although.
In November 2016, kurzgesgt published a video on the most gruesome parasites. It tells a story of devastating diseases that the world governments couldn't solve, so the big pharma stepped in to be the hero of humanity and save the day. This is the issue,
though, like, of world governments. If I'm a government and I don't have enough money, the question is why. For example, the continent, to make clear, I'm talking about the continent of Africa, has been, not all countries, but like a lot of countries in Africa are sacked of resources. They had, and in some cases still do have, to this day, many valuable resources that would have made them some of the richest countries in the world if they were the ones selling them. Except they weren't. And, as I said, in many cases, still aren't. They are instead the source, and then a British person or an American company will come in and they'll do the profit making. Now, in some cases, this meant that they had to bribe politicians, but in other cases, it just meant they just used force. Just full on, just use force via the British Empire and the American troops, that sort of thing. So, as that is the case, you have to say, well, you know, as that is the case, so why exactly are they not able to afford this? It's because of you. It's because of England. It's because of America. It's because of the European Union. That sort of thing. Now, I wouldn't say necessarily the European Union as much. More like the European countries that are within the EU now. The European Union now, yes, but like back in the day, France, Spain, Netherlands, all these are the ones who are responsible for it. So they're the ones who should be footing the bill. So world governments can certainly solve it, just they don't want to. Until they do.
It's one of those too good to be true stories, so I
Yeah.
decided to look it up myself. And the real events are nowhere near as glaring for the big pharma as kurzgesagt presents. Pharmaceutical corporations did donate their medicine to the most affected regions, but they didn't do it out of their own volition or initiative. They did it after decades of neglecting the diseases because they
It's a
weren't.
bit weird, like, yeah, they donated the medicine. They didn't let billions of people, millions to billions of people die. Woo! They're so amazing, guys. They didn't murder millions of people. Didn't do a genocide. Isn't that fun? They didn't do a genocide. That's what we would call the bare minimum. That literally the bare minimum. Like, not donating your medicine is literally a genocide. Like, oh, we've got a patent on this, or patent. You can't make this medicine. We're the only ones who can make this medicine. And we're not gonna let you make it or buy it from us because you don't have the money. So looks like you're gonna be in a sticky situation, eh? Well, bye then. That's what happened with the COVID vaccine. AstraZeneca. A lot of people died because Billio said, "Nah, let's not have that in the public." So you can thank Bill for that. Well, this is an exciting video, isn't it? It's really uplifting. This is the problem, though, of optimism. It's like, no, you can't be optimistic about a situation where people are actively murdering millions. If you be optimistic, you're lying to yourself about the world.
Profitable enough to manufacture fixes for them. Bill Gates is actually responsible for much of the neglect. His charitable priorities overemphasized big-name diseases such as malaria, HIV, or tuberculosis. But in the process of doing so, they drew crucial attention and resources away from more common and structural problems.
And also, just the issue of, like, when you do this sort of thing of like, well, sure, they're big now and these are small, but you do realize how diseases work, right? Like, if there's a disease, and it's small, only a few thousand people have it, and but that's how diseases spread. You don't treat them, then they either just expand or they mutate and they expand, and then suddenly you've got a massive issue on your hands. Polio. If you don't deal with polio, it expands. That's the point. You have to make sure these things are caught when they're small, or slash if they're big, bring them down and make sure you continue. If you, brought AIDS down to like practically nothing, you couldn't just go, okay, no more AIDS, help then, no more hospitals won't test it, they won't. No, you have to make sure you keep a cap on that. That means you have to continue to stop this from spreading. You can't just leave it alone. It'll grow.
That's not super surprising to hear at all.
Okay.
I haven't seen the video that he's talking about here, though. That absolutely sounds par for the course. That goes for everything. They're not going to pursue something that they can't make a profit on. That's the sad reality of it. I don't know if anyone ever looks at pharmaceutical companies or anyone that's making medicine as some benevolent.
To be fair, they will if you force them to. Or if you just abolish them and make them like government owned, they will then. Because, well, then they're not focused on profits. This is my issue, people. I've studied business, and as a business student, I've experienced the class scenario where you hear the teacher like, oh, And the benefits of privatization, like, that's not a benefit. You won't get lower prices when you bring in a profit motive, because the thing is, only if that business, the government business, is competing with major industries, you might get a price decrease there because the government will be lower than those industries. But when the government is literally in a monopoly position, how exactly would you get lower prices? Oh, I'll tell you one way you can. You get lower prices by slashing wages. Well, that's great. You know, now food costs 50 cents less and you get a few thousand less in your pay. So it's a net loss, actually. You know, that's literally the only way moving to a private company will actually slash prices if the government has a monopoly position, which is to cut wages or just to put pressure on suppliers. That's not a nice thing to do. That means people get hurt and they don't have as much money, and they need to have money to buy the goods that are now cheaper, but also not as cheap as, you know, they would be, because obviously the private business wants to make a profit, and especially if they paid a load of money for a government institution, they're going to want to make a profit pretty quickly because, you know, there's a profit to be made there.
Saints that just want to save the world. So that's not surprising. Maybe the video is making the argument that the drug companies are heroes and saviors that just wanted to push us to salvation. Maybe, but I highly doubt that's what it was.
Many of which led to outbreaks of other diseases. After the public pressure was too large to ignore, the drug makers decided to join the plan. Big Pharma never came up with this initiative. It was the World Health Organization who had proposed a roadmap to eradicate the diseases by 2020 and convinced governments
Just look
and
at insulin.
NGOs to join
Great
them.
example.
The pharmaceutical conglomerates never assumed any risk. These corporations took home almost $9 trillion in profits in 18 years. So this little stunt...
This is the issue really with like industries like this, you know, which is like when you see an industry that like makes a ton of profit, you go, okay, so that's an issue, isn't it? That's a problem we have there, and that is a problem. But when an industry makes massive profits, but it's especially a problem when you look at these kind of industries who, you know, are kind of like they're industries that like are almost necessities, if you know what I mean. You need to have medication. If you need to have medication, this is a problem of like, well, how will you afford it if it's profit motivated? That person who died because he couldn't afford the medication, that it's because of profits. They died because of that. So, you know, that's just like...
is really just a pocket change for them.
Big
This
clams.
video was paid for by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and it so happens that the Gates are heavily invested in
I
many
wonder what is it like now since they split up? You know?
of the pharma companies Kurzgesagt portrays as heroes. They own major holdings in many of the participating companies.
Does the channel ever portray them as heroes?
Okay, first of all, I'll address this. First of all, you know, I don't think a charity should have investments in private companies. Like, yeah, we are for you getting access to medication, which is why we invested in the company that doesn't let you access medication. Right. I think that kind of that it like incorporates almost everything that is wrong with charities, which is like not everything, but like the one of the main issues, which is if I buy something from a profitable company and I donate it to you, I'm basically wasting that money, the profit. I mean, so let's say they make £5 profit. That's a £5 I just wasted because that company could have donated that at cost. It would have cost them, you know, that it wouldn't like you know, basically I paid that company for the cost of it. It wouldn't have cost them anything, you know. That's why charity is an issue, which is that you're funding a model which is not great, which is more money to people who refused to give it for free. And this whole thing of, oh, they didn't paint them as heroes. It's not about painting them as heroes. It's about painting them in not a bad light. As I've just said, it's bad to invest in charities. If you paint someone in like not a bad light, if you don't criticize that, and you accept the money, is the main thing. Like if you accept their money, it looks kind of weird. Like, well, clearly you're not critical of them then, because why would you accept their money? Then that's the point. You should be critical of them if you're going to cover this issue.
Though, the ones I've seen where he does mention where they do mention pharmaceutical companies.
I guess I presume it's just one fellow who does the voice recordings. I guess maybe it does feel as if they're, but it does, like, I mean, because like it does feel like a very kind of high quality recording, and it does feel weird how why is it like that, feels like a paid voice actor, kind of distant from the channel.
I never really got the impression that he like puts them on some pedestal as heroes. More so just looking at what they did and how it affected it or changed it. Okay, so it's not just me. I never got that impression. It just really seemed more.
No offense, man, but like you're kind of stupid. I'm not saying I'm smart. I'm just saying I've got a comment before where someone's like, "Oh no, I think it is you who's stupid," and I'm like, "But." Like they use the word dumb. First of all, I'll address the fact you shouldn't use the word dumb for stupidity, because that's like almost a discrimination tactic there. That was the idea. Like, oh, you can't speak, you're stupid. Like, what sense does that make? Do you understand how the brain works? Like, if I'm able to function, like I'm able to process what comes in. If I'm not able to speak, that means nothing. You don't have the ability to hear my words. Kind of a bit of an ignorant thing to call someone who can't speak like stupid. But anyway, that's partially the issue I find with Americans and their use of certain things that have found their way into the lexicon, where it's like, oh, you're oh, it's like you're dumb, or you're that's or retarded. It's like, yeah, but those things are all to do with maybe don't use those words. They're just not really great for this kind of thing. It's not nice. But anyway, point is I'm making is that why did I spend that long talking about a comment? My point is this. I think that MoistCr1tikal penguinz0 is a fucking idiot. There. I've said it. Or kind of a bit of a manipulative moron. One of the two. But I'm just saying I'm not smart.
More matter of fact, like, and again, they did actually step in and do things. From everything I ever saw from the channel, it was just like they stepped in and they did this. And then they just have like a cutesy animation associated with it. I never really got the impression that they were trying to suck the dick of the pharmaceutical companies.
That's the point, though. I mean, it'd be a bit weird if they were like, yeah, pharmaceutical companies, they're amazing, lads. They're wonderful. Like, you should really give them all your money. When you can't afford insulin, think of the pharmaceutical companies. The reason why you're dead in your grave, because of them. Think of their profits. They nice. They are good people, definitely. Definitely not effectively just mass murderers. Not at all. Don't think about it like that. Don't think about how it's kind of like a mob boss being like, you don't pay me money, then I'm gonna like throw you into a river with concrete attached to your legs. Don't think of it like that. Think of it like this, boys. They're nice, aren't they? That would be a bit weird if they literally were just like, yeah, they're not like mob bosses. Well, they kind of are. But, think about what argument would you use there. They're not going to outfront, like, just say that. Because that would be, obvious. And upfront.
But again, I guess it could just be me. I always thought they were a bit bleak sometimes in their outlook, but not much else. So that's interesting, because usually the takeaway, and what a lot of this boils down to, is they don't look at things bleak, they look at things highly optimistic. And since they do receive funding from, I guess, the Melinda Gates Foundation, that Optimism could be more as like a propaganda tool, where it's trying to put all of their interests in the best light. So that's where it all kind of stems from. Most people don't find it bleak, actually the opposite.
And both Bill and Melinda Gates are trustees of 2 pharma firms. This video isn't positive news, it's a positive PR.
Yeah.
Kurzgesagt admitted they wouldn't have made this video if it wasn't paid for by Gates. Okay, what the hell just happened?
Oh, let me read that. Kind of glossed over that pretty quick.
Okay, what the hell just happened?
You too. Like, you did too, though, buddy. You know, like, yeah, we kind of glossed over that. Yeah, and you. We probably would not have made this video without, okay, just covering the screen, without the grant, for example. But honestly,
By Gates. Okay, what the hell just happened?
Oh, let me read that.
So
kind of glossed over that pretty quick.
Says
Okay, what the hell
they
just
asked for
happened?
us in a way. You know, very weird way to admit that. See,
This
is the
one
thing.
video is the perfect culmination of everything that's
what I would
wrong
say is-
with Billionaire.
Kurzgesagt could just literally be like MoistCr1tikal, just a bit stupid, you know, like not really able to process the basics of like, Billionaire gives you money, you say nice things about Billionaire, because you know, you kind of feel like you should, and then Billionaire gives you more money. Maybe that's a problem. Maybe we shouldn't have billionaires. What about that? No? Oh, okay. You're not able to make that understanding that maybe that's an issue? Like, clearly they're not like, you know, they don't seem deceptive about it. They don't seem like, oh, ha, ha, ha. Yeah, Bill and I, we were chatting last week. These viewers are going to be so fucking stupid. They're going to swallow it all and invest in Bill's companies and buy all his shite. They will indeed. Oh my God almighty. Bill is going to be so rich. We're going to be so popular. People aren't even going to realize. Probably not doing that. But the thing is, they are probably also in the position that they, you know, aren't really in the understanding. That's being fair to them. To be fair, I'm not saying that that's good. I'm just saying, you know, to be fair, they do seem like they just are a bit, like, stupid.
Billionaires funding media to get the coverage they need. It provides a whitewash take on real events. It undeservedly elevates the role of private entities and gives a marketing boost to their agenda and financial interests. The ultra-wealthy are pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into media companies, academic institutions, and governing bodies to rig every step of policymaking in their favor. When billionaires want to open up the markets for their trade, they'll fund media outlets that tell the audience how important investments, innovations, and economic growth are.
Hold on a second.
They'll do
Hold on a second. The Guardian, including the Guardian.org, Public Radio International, Education Week, NPR.
that tell the audience how important investments, innovations, and
Guardian
economic
South
growth are.
Africa. It's not. Yeah.
They'll donate to research that will give them the argument that whatever they decide
I mean,
to
this is
do,
the issue, which is like, it's not just like fascist, right wing, soft right wing, centrist, slightly left. No, it's even like pretty progressive, pretty leftist. You know, media outlets, you know, outwardly facing it, are funded by this stuff. You know, so that sort of thing. Like when you like, the Guardian is one of the biggest. Like it's very proud for being, you know, like independent. We don't have billionaire owners, and then it's like, I mean, yeah, but you did get almost 13 million from Bill Gates, so you don't have billionaire owners. Okay, they don't own a stake in your company, but they did give you money. So, you know, let's not talk shite.
fund media outlets that tell the audience how important investments, innovations, and economic growth are. They'll donate to research that will give them the argument that whatever they decide to do is science. They'll give to political campaigns to get the right candidates elected so that the laws they lobby for are easier to pass. We have identified this to be a problem
all true.
with all big institutions, and this is what it did to our
still are, but I know they were affiliated with BlackRock, and BlackRock is the biggest investment firm in the world, so I can see why we have some issues there.
trust in them.
How does that tie in to the YouTuber?
So, if it is a problem when billionaires fund our politicians, our journalists, and our academia, is it also a problem when they fund our...
Do you think the fans of MoistCr1tikal, who listen to his every word, and like when he says something like, "Oh, Mr. Beast is really, really good. The people are talking shite on Twitter. He's a really good person for, spending the money in his videos that he makes from videos where he spends money. He's really good for doing that, and the fact that he has like a $10 million studio, that doesn't wave any red flags about the whole I fund money into my content in a kind of like, yeah, I guess that seems like a legal speak of saying, yeah, I fund money into my content, like lawyers, that's technically true. Not ethically or morally true, though. You don't actually pay out all the money you make. So, but that's my point, though. Is that when you defend that, when you have that sort of like close tie-in, well, do MoistCr1tikal viewers didn't have the same trust that they have in him with an outlet? Like, probably not. Also, it's a lot more formal. Like even if the language isn't formal in an outlet, it's like a lot more formal the relationship you have than when it's between a YouTuber and their friend.
For YouTubers, because billionaire funding is a lot more prevalent on YouTube than you might think. It's far beyond the scope of this 6-year-old.
That is very true. Like film theory, I believe even like the Film Theory, Game Theory, the Theorist channel, they've had funding from like Bill Gates before, which is like, come on, guys, come on. Does that not wave flags for you? Doesn't it? Doesn't that feel a bit dodgy? Like if I got an email, right, from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and they're like, "Oh, we would like to give you a grant," I'd be like, "Okay, what did I do wrong? Because I have to change my outlook then. Because what made them think this would be a good fit? I'm gonna have to stop that because that's not good." When a billionaire is like, "Yeah, I'm thinking of giving you money. How about would you like if I gave you money? Would you like that?" Just for a few videos, that's all. Just I really, really want your media to go out into the world. Free the bird. I would feel concerned.
Video. I didn't realize I was watching a video sponsored by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation because kurzgesagt didn't reveal this information until the last 20 seconds of the video.
Well, I imagine it's in the description though, right? It'd be illegal. You have to make it very, like, one of the main things you have to make it very clear.
Illegal so much as
Interesting. It's not...
It's not that it's illegal, but it's against YouTube's terms of service. So if you get a video sponsored by a company, it's against YouTube terms of service. So the YouTube terms of service actually goes above legality. Probably, I feel like that's probably in order so that they cover all laws. Because if one country is like very strict on their like sponsorship rules, then they want to ensure that they don't like, get a lawsuit from that country. Like, let's say, Germany says, "Well, YouTube, you're breaking our laws." Sure, that's an American YouTuber. You're an American website, but you're available in Germany. You're breaking our laws. So we're going to have to ban you, or else, you're gonna have to change up your rules because that's against our rules. So that's probably partially it. So if you do that, you can, you're breaking the laws when it comes to YouTube terms.
Immediately clear, it's not in the description here. So was this video, hold on, let me see.
This video was made possible in part by a grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and your support on patreon.com.
That's the key thing. It's if it's made possible by a grant, is that legally speaking a sponsorship? We all know what that means. They didn't say it upon every video, even though the contract was for that long. So, well, I mean, like, if they didn't say it in every video, surely does not mean that this video was the video they used the money for? So, might that have had some input? Grants, by the way, have attachments to them. While you don't have to pay them back, they do have attachments to them. That's the truth. Like, does happen. There's some grants that require you to work for a government or a company. So if you want to get free education in some countries, you have to work for the country for a period of time. And then you can leave, that sort of stuff, like those are potential things. But yeah, it is a whole thing with grants there. All right.
Okay, so it's not per se a sponsored video, but I can see where this would easily be a bit yucky, where a grant did help fund this video, and the information paints the things that this is involved in a very positive way. But I guess it's not per se a sponsored video.
Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and your support on patreon.com. If you want to help us make more videos, you can do so here. If you're disappointed...
They have a lot of places.
That's very interesting. What does it matter? Well, what do you mean, what does it matter? Let's say I'm paying Kotaku to post an article about, Jesus Christ, a mobile game that I've made. And I'm like, hey, maybe just look at the mobile game and talk about, some cool features that we're thinking about. Talk about mobile gaming in general, but I'd like you to talk a little bit about my game when talking about, like, these innovative features. And it's not mentioned till the end that my input or my money
mobile game
helped.
Was, a theoretical innovation, right? It was a new way of playing games, but it was also a very expensive way. Like I said, you buy a console, and you had to, just to play this mobile game. Like, why do you have to buy a console for thing? It's on mobile, isn't it? No, you have to buy a console. You have to buy this attachment and boom. That's very expensive, isn't it? Just play your game. This is an innovative new way, is it? Is it really? Is it? And you get better playing? Kind of. The playing is also better by just getting a better mobile game. Okay. What? It's that's what.
Write that article. It's a really bad example. That's actually a terrible example.
Yeah.
Because this is a grant, not a direct contribution, I suppose.
No, but
fuck it. I'm gonna stand on that. I think the concept should be pretty clear. If you are getting money, or if you have money come in, and you make a video that kind of paints everything where that money came from in a positive way, it seems a bit less than genuine. It seems like perhaps that financial incentive may have skewed some information in order to make it more favorable to the person.
Even if it doesn't. You just shouldn't accept money from people where their investments, their incentives, their ideas could benefit from your coverage in a general sense, So even if you were thinking about doing that, even if you've written the script already and they didn't have any input on the script at all, the fact is, because you're now getting money from them, you now should definitely disclose that by saying, by the way, guys, these people did give me money, guys, so maybe they might give me money for a reason. It's kind of thing like a manufacturing consent. This sort of thing where you have a situation in which, why exactly are you given the position of reporter? Why exactly are you given the position of newscast reader. It's because your ideology aligns with that billionaire, or aligns with that government, or aligns with that sort of thing. That's why you have that position. You aren't being told to say this, but you're being paid because you say this. And this is the way of basically kind of slow cooking everybody else. So if my media organization is in getting like millions in grants, if I'm getting 10 million from a foundation, then obviously I'm in the same position that I'm like, well, then this organization that didn't get funding did not get 10 million. So they're not able to grow as much, and they're not able to do, I think, as much. Anyway. Just like.
Or the group where the money came from. That's why, like, if a review is sponsored, everyone takes the review less seriously, because it's like, oh, you're probably not going to say anything overly harsh because you had money come in from that company.
Yeah.
Isn't that what you do, though? What, pay Kotaku to talk
Not
about my
necessarily.
mobile game that I don't have? What? I still think it's...
No, not necessarily just, not even money, just like the product itself. In some weird cases as well, it's like, oh, yeah, no. This is the way it's set up. Like, they gave me this product for free. It's a review unit. I have to send it back. I can't keep it. Even then, you feel like, that's still the incentive to just be like, oh, no, it's good. It has these small errors. Ignore the glaring error that I ran into, because maybe that's just a me thing. That's probably not every error. No, we can deal with that. It's kind of loud, but like the performance is amazing. I'm talking about like technology here, that sort of thing. Like that sort of level there. It's like, well, yeah, but if you send someone a review it, they're incentivized to say something that isn't too negative about the product. Not that they'll check the script or anything like that, but just it's this sort of thing of, once again, manufacturing. That you're there in that position that you are going to be positive about a company that might send you more free stuff to review. Because if you get like 10 quid from a video, if the review unit costs you nothing because the review unit, that's money that instead of having to, buy the product for a few hundred and then you don't get a return on your investment, or buying it for a few hundred and then having to return it and have to go through that process, and maybe it won't work, maybe you'll damage it slightly, and then they'll be like, well, you did why did you buy this? And you're like, for a video. It's like, okay, but then why? No, I'm not gonna accept this. You can't just buy something and then return it because, well, I watched it for a video. Okay, that's bad. That sort of thing. You could do that, but that's obviously a more longer process and it's a lot more complicated and it's a lot more risky.
Is a big deal. Well, I don't know if it's a big deal yet. I haven't finished the video, but I could see like at least the argument for it, where if they're getting money from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and a lot of the things they talk about paint everything that this foundation does in a positive light without addressing like any kind of negative stuff, that seems a little odd, as if it's been influenced by the money. Seems more ulterior motive driven, which I think is kind of the core of where this comes from, calling it a propaganda machine for billionaires.
Yeah.
I actually first found out about the sponsorship from kurzgesgt Medium article on how they treat sponsors. Here,
What?
Philip Detmer, the owner of the channel, admitted that Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation was their biggest supporter. So big, in fact, it helped
and to be honest, just as the huge shout of support on Patreon.
transform kurzgesgt into a powerhouse.
The grant the foundation gave us was one of the reasons we could transform into the powerhouse we are today. Are you really a powerhouse?
But Philip Detmer also told us that kurzgesgt is almost entirely viewer funded. I wanted to know where the
Wait,
truth
hold on a second.
is almost entirely viewer funded.
Come on,
I
hate
wanted
this
to know
YouTube
where
thing of,
the
like, you
truth.
just don't save that. You're like you pause the video. Just want to comment on something wrong you said. We have no something independent channel and is almost entirely viewer funded. We do not rely on sponsors. Like, that's not the point though. Like, if you're like Logan Paul or MoistCr1tikal or Mr. Beast or any of these people, you don't need to rely on sponsors. You make millions every single year off of your ads, or even just hundreds of thousands. But look, if you're making over 50 grand to 100 grand on YouTube, if you're making over that, you should not have sponsors. If your argument is, oh, we don't rely on sponsors, they don't have them. Don't have them. Don't accept grants from Billionaires. Don't have these sponsors, because then you're effectively saying, oh, we don't rely on sponsors. We're just greedy. Yeah, sure. But when you buy a mega mansion, if that money came from Bill and Melinda Gates, then you wanted that mega mansion. So it's still incentivizing you to do that. Just because you don't rely on them to still function as a business or still function as a media outlet, just to eat, does not mean you still won't listen to them. Like actors who get paid millions for a film won't just go, you know what, director, fuck you, I'm not listening to what you're saying. Because, no, you will. While you don't rely on that person, while you're making bank every single year, you're still getting loads of money. And when you're greedy, you want loads of money, man, So, it's not really nice to...
Kurzgesgt is almost entirely viewer funded. I wanted to know where the truth lies, so I went to the Foundation's grant database and found this. In November 2015, Kurzgesgt was awarded $570,000 from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for a 49-month-long contract. I wanted to see the...
Jeez. That's like 8 years ago. No, it's like 7 years ago. 7 years ago,
full extent of this contract, so I started going through their YouTube videos to see how many were made for the foundation, and that's when I entered a rabbit hole. I was able to identify at least 8 videos Kurzgesgt made for the Gates Foundation. When they were awarded the Gates grant...
Is it for the Gates Foundation? I don't...
Well, because they say in the description, this video was made possible by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, then... I think that's also why I use an English accent for your man, because the fellow who does the narrations, then yeah, that feels like it was made for them. Like, why was it made possible? That feels like they had.
Don't think so. I've seen some of these. I never got the impression they were for anyone aside from just bringing light to a topic.
As I've said
when they
already,
were awarded the Gates grant,
obviously they're not going to go up saying Bill is amazing, lads. He's you should really do everything. No, they're not going to be so upfront, Like, sponsors sponsor videos at times where, they're kind of fine with us. And that's the point. It's not about, like, oh, this is like, it's not about that. It's not going to be upfront like that, because that would be obvious. Because you also list the fact that Bill Gates is the person who funded you. It's going to be a problem if you were to literally just praise him, name him, and praise, like, that would be, instead you have to go, oh, these inventions are really good. They're really good. The fellow who funded us is invested in those. We're not going to say that in the video, though. Yeah.
the Patreon was relatively small, yielding less than $9,000 per month. The money from Gates would cover at least $11,000 per month, or 71.
Wait, did he miss that? 9,000 a month.
The money from Gates would cover relatively small, yielding less.
First of all, it's relatively small, and it's not really a lot if you think about it. I believe they had like 5 employees at the time. So they had like 5 employees at the time. 5 employees spreading like 9,000. Like, that's not a lot, because like 5 employees, to pay them fairly, you're looking at about 250 grand a year. That's not, that patron's not going to meet that. So you're going to need, you can't rely on your patrons simply. But 500,000? That's a lot. That's enough to pay for 2 years of salaries or expansion. You know.
less than $9,000 per month. The money from Gates
Small-
would
that's a
cover
lot.
at
What do you
least
mean?
$11,000
How
per
much
month.
you
Or
make every single month. I just love it when, like, big creators are like, "Oh, I'm down with the board," basically, like, just sort of like, "I'm down with you guys, the viewers, who are like, even the richest of you, like, if a large portion of people are earning like around like 60, 70,000, like, you're not earning large amounts of money," and it's like, what are you talking about, rich people? You earn like over 100 grand a year, like, come on, man, come on, you know. Come on, let's be honest. You're a big creator. Let's not, like, come on. This fella earns millions. Okay, coming in here like, yeah, 9,000 a month. That's a lot. Like, not for you, it isn't.
$71,250 per video. So the Gates money alone would be at least on par with their Patreon, but Gates wasn't alone. Throughout my research, I kept discovering more and more billionaire-sponsored videos. It's not just one foundation. It's George Soros, the Templetons, and Facebook co-founder Dustin Moskowitz. They also made a sponsored video for this professor from Oxford University, William McCaskill, who is funded by Open Philanthropy. And kurzgesgt also received money from Bill Gates' personal blog and
By the way, Gates notes. Seriously, what even is that? Like, that's just sad.
venture capitalist funds. From what I was able to find,
Like, imagine if I was just like, paid other YouTubers, like, yeah, this video is sponsored by MoistCr1tikal. Watch really long kind of live reaction videos that aren't really that good on youtube.com/watch MoistCr1tikal today. That would be kind of sad and pathetic in a way. Feels very weird for, like, biggest, like, yeah, go to my blog where I talk about my investments. I won't tell you they're my investments, though.
kurzgesgt made at least one video for Open Society Foundations, at least 3 videos for Templeton World Charity, 3 videos for Bill Gates' blog and Breakthrough Energy, and 1 video for William McCaskill.
He keeps saying made the videos for them, but in none of these videos does it promote anything. At least not that I.
It does, though. This is my problem with humanity. This is one of the most famous YouTubers on this platform. One of the biggest streamers on the platform. And they're this stupid? Or are they agreeing with the propaganda machine? Either one isn't great, Like, this is a basic level of understanding of, like, transaction. They say, oh, carbon capture, that's good. It's not really. We should, like, for example, Team C's. Okay. Seems great, right? Great publicity for Mr. Beast. That's actually not good. Didn't do much for the environment. That reversed pretty much every single day. Nothing really done there. Nothing. Right? That didn't really solve any issues. Just advertising, really. Just advertising. Feel good content. Doesn't mean a thing, though. This isn't just like a basic sort of like, oh, you gave someone $1 million. At least that person's happy. All the other millions of people, they're not going to be happy, I guess. But when you see this Team C sort of situation, that was like, no one benefits from this in the climate sense. Like, this is not even going to push back a week of plastic pollution. So
I can recall from the ones I've seen, it doesn't really say anything too much either about, like, the actual, I don't know, players in the story. Though I guess
how do you change. If you change by, I don't know, carbon capture, specific engineering things, all these things that happen to be patented by companies that Bill or all these billionaires are invested in. One of the things is, and this is one of the funny things, green companies are very big on the stock market. That's one of the things. Apparently it's woke. But the thing is, green companies are actually not big on the stock market. Green-oriented companies, companies that say, a brighter future, anti-climate change, fight against our climate change issue. Those companies are big players. Companies that don't really do anything, but will talk the talk. They're the ones big there. Because they're the ones that billionaires recognize not going to jeopardize their position. They're actually going to maybe make them a ton of money. You know? They're possibly the future. Except, in order for them to be the future, they need to make sure the public go along with it. They need to make sure that the media outlets don't start saying things like, they're bad, actually.
If you look at the animation, for example, when it had like free drug ribbon stamped on one of the things and the doctor giving like a thumbs up, I guess you could interpret that as like a, wow, this is an incredible company and they're fucking heroes. I could maybe see that. But I feel like that's just more because the audience is all over the place in terms of age, so that kind of animation is going to resonate and make it clear to everyone like what's going on, as opposed
Funnily
to...
enough, sorry, this is just with YouTube Analytics. YouTube Analytics is going to be reliable because they take the age by viewer input. Second of all, there's also, people don't really realize this, but like, you know, people do watch YouTube without signing in. So, if that's the case, you're not going to get their age in your analytics. Now, I'm sure Google knows, but they're not going to share that with you. You know, so your actual age skewer is affected by a myriad of different things. Like if a 8-year-old is shared a link, for example, and they don't really use YouTube in the sense that they don't really browse it, but they often are given links. So they do watch a lot of YouTube, but just don't necessarily like seek it out, if you know what I mean. That person is going to be in the position that they most likely won't have YouTube channel. So you might have a channel that you watch a lot by older people, but if that's done by shares, or middle-aged people, if that's done by shares, then maybe you won't actually get their ages. You'll get the ages which you are signed in. Then younger people will often lie and say that they're adults, which means that because Google and YouTube has been such a thing for a long time, people who said that they were adults, like people who said they were 20 years old when they were like 12 back in the day, they're now adults now. They now come up as middle-aged. But also, the young people now are also lying. So the young age, you don't really know. But then for bigger channels, you can almost say for certain that a lot of their audience will be older people because of how long they've been on YouTube, and they've grown, and their audience, they had a big channel back in the day. So surely, unless that entire audience was replaced by new people, they fell off, but then new people came in to replace them. As they grew, they got more people coming in than people falling out. So all the older people are falling out, but the new people are coming in every single time. Unless that's happening, your old audience is going to really, keep that way.
It'd be more like a patting on the ass and a celebration. At the very end of all of them, he says who it was funded by. Yeah. So that's what I just learned. Usually, when it comes to a sponsored video, you have to make it abundantly clear that it is sponsored, which is why at the top,
Actually,
the top of every description that's
debatable.
sponsored.
As I said, I believe they're a German company, although you never know half these days. It's like, oh no, they have they're entirely in Germany, but they're actually in the Bermuda is where their company is located. You wouldn't know. I don't know where their company is located, but I think that's where their studio is, right? But the thing is, the point I'm trying to make here is that when you look at this, it's like, yeah, but that's not exactly true. You need to do that for America, doesn't demand you do that, but YouTube will. YouTube says you have to target paid promotion on them, which means a little tag comes up here saying paid promotion, right? YouTube requires all this. Now, a debatable comes in when someone says, "Oh, I'm giving you a grant," and then it goes towards a specific video. It becomes into the whole thing. Well, did you sponsor that video or did you just sponsor the channel? You should still, okay. Well, what is YouTube requiring you to do? So ordinarily, you have a thing here. I wouldn't say it requires you to say so in the description. I think it's just that most sponsors will want to be at the top of the description. They'll want to be the first link in the description, because that way someone looking at the description goes, okay, very easy, click on the sponsor, and boom, they get to go to their website.
It has the sponsor. The grant to Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is not even in the description. It's in the last 20 seconds, where most people have probably already clicked off.
Yeah.
Because it's not technically sponsored. They have funding from the foundation, but they didn't sponsor this video.
But see,
they just have money from the
literally, I'm not saying Mr. wrong here, by the way. I'm just saying that that's basically just, oh, legally speaking, we're not sponsored. But legally, no, but you are.
grant, and
Otherwise,
that money
you
helped
just have it
create
on like
this
your
video.
website. Oh,
But they didn't
funding
make it
provided by. But why would you this video in particular? It's because that's where the grant went to.
for them, technically.
We know they were awarded $500,000 from the Gates Foundation and almost $6 million from Open Philanthropy. If they kept the same per video rate since the Gates grant, it could be estimated.
6 million. My God. Oh my, they must make some crazy profit margins. Roads pay their workers very well, because like 6 million. 6 million.
Zach received at
6
least
mil.
$7 million from Billionaire funds. This would be more money than kurzgesagt received from their supporters on Patreon in the entire history of the channel. This made me realize that kurzgesagt never was this small, independent, almost entirely viewer-funded channel. As soon as the studio incorporated, billionaires began lining up. They transformed the small Munich-based design studio with 5 employees into a multi-million-dollar media powerhouse with dozens of employees. kurzgesagt was also sponsored by regular commercial businesses such as Brilliant or Skillshare, but neither of these has
I'll get to this. Brilliant. I really don't like this idea of like pushing education behind a paywall. Brilliant is, I would say, a better one. I would not say they are a good one. They are a bit of a rip-off, but they're not like necessarily bad. I haven't actually like experienced their quality content. I'm not saying they're good. I'm just saying I'm just listing on negative, but I'm not saying that they're necessarily bad. Skillshare, however, no. Burn that company to the ground. Burn it to the ground. Skillshare is just awful, and I'm saying that like it is awful. It is like if YouTube said, we are going to bring in a cost you need to pay to access YouTube. We're also going to remove all subscribers. just generally, just boom, you know? Like that's there's just Skillshare is just awful. So no, don't Skillshare is not actually a great company either. So I'm just saying, it's like, yeah, we're either funded by billionaires or funded by a company which basically scams our viewers. So trust us. No, Skillshare's bad. Don't ever get Skillshare. Bad company.
Multi-billion-dollar investments in global industries, and they aren't spending millions in political lobbies trying to influence lawmaking.
But they're not good anyway. So even just that makes it worse. Like at least this is like politics. Skillshare is like actively a scam, basically, allegedly, and not legally speaking, but it is in a sense like a scam. It is I am comparing it to a scam. So that I just want to get that clear there. They're not a good company either. So it does feel a bit like this, media company just does not care about its viewers at all. Not just that it has a particular political viewpoint, a particular economic viewpoint, but literally that it does not care about its viewers.
Most importantly, they don't fund the sources that Kurzgesagt uses for the research. And what the hell is going on with Kurzgesagt research? Kurzgesagt told us their research is impartial and fact-checked by scientists to ensure integrity. But my skepticism research is impartial and fact-checked.
Wait. In general, we contact 3 to 6 experts for each video.
By scientists to ensure
3 to 6. It's like, yeah, we contact 3 to 6. Lenny, Roger, Davey, Samantha, Kira, and Thomas from our world in data. We contact 6 experts from this one outlet. Technically, that's 6 experts, not 6 from people from different outlets, but it's 6 experts, lads, so it's fine. We guarantee at least one expert.
My skepticism alarms were already.
We guarantee at least one expert will agree with us. Okay, I mean, that's kind of a basic and also very easy to do. It's like, yeah, I agree with you. Thanks for the money, man. Yeah, Bill is a really good payer, isn't he? See you later. It's not very good.
Already buzzing out their asses, so I started looking at their sources and noticed something odd. Many of their videos rely primarily on a single publication. This publication is a partner of the channel and they help them with research and provide numbers for their scripts. This publication appears so frequently in their sources, their website is quoted up to dozens of times in a single document. This research publication is not some independent group of scientists just sharing their hard science for free. It is our world in data, heavily funded by Bill Gates and other billionaires, many of which have also sponsored.
Done well. But one thing it does do is just give away what they're going to say before they say it. That's one thing I would say. So just a slight improvement on the. Yeah, but I mean, I can't comment, can I? But I'm just saying, the editing is very good on this. Besides that one.
Kurzgesagt videos.
Oh.
The publication received.
Okay, I will.
Effective altruism is also fucking awful. You're talking about crypto pros there.
Well, I will say, probably shouldn't just be using one source for everything this frequently. That's I think it's a very fair point. I think you should probably get information from more than just one source.
Yeah.
Especially because again, I think this still is going to boil down to more.
When I make my videos are more informal and stuff. I wouldn't list multiple sources, but I am generally getting this that I talk about from multiple sources. A lot of it actually comes from my education, but also other sources as well.
More of instead of it being more correlation as opposed to causation, but this certainly is just at the very least laziness to keep using the same source for all of this information, and that source also happens to be funded by your grant. That's not amazing. Stop spreading this conspiracy bullshit. Well, it's not really a conspiracy. They haven't made any claims aside from the factual stuff of they have the grants which they openly talk about.
Yeah.
It's at the end of the videos, and they also use
Very
one
weird idea
source
of
a lot.
conspiracy. Like, you do know rich people do own the industries, right? Like, when you seek out, they sort of think of like, oh, you vote with your dollar. That's what I did. I mean, it's not really true because, well, otherwise advertising wouldn't be a thing. But, like, in a sense, that's basically the message that you're going there. If you listen to CNN, Fox News, even like shows like Last Week Tonight, anything like that, you're watching media which is owned by billionaires. Now, maybe you agree with their ideology. Maybe you like what they have to say. But at the end of the day, you do have to understand that is media approved by billionaires. Why exactly would a billionaire like Rupert Murdoch own a media outlet that doesn't really turn a profit? Well, it's because it also does a small other thing. Besides a moneymaker, it can cook yourself some nice profits in that way. You can make money in other outlets, and you can make all sorts of things like that, and you can do stuff like that. It's a very effective way of doing things. So that's why some Rupert Murdoch outlets, for example, are not moneymakers. They have to sell at a loss because the competition is able to, sell at a cheaper price. So they have to they can't afford to have the doors open, except they get funding by their owner. Why would that be? It's because the public read that and they conform to the ideology of Murdoch. That's the point. So when you read The Sun, when you read, any of these, The Mirror or any of these things, or in England, for example, when you're reading these media outlets, you are reading media outlets of billionaires to millionaires. So that's not, conspiracy. That's just a fact. If you want to read other media outlets, it'll be more difficult, but you can. Not that it'll be better, but you can. Anyway, just.
What's the conspiracy? That's just factual. Yeah. The hated one channel is all about conspiracy. Could be, but so far he hasn't said anything conspiratorial. He's just pointing out things that I do think are a little less than stellar. This should be at the beginning of the video, or at the very least in the description. When a video is at least partially funded by an organization.
I mean, people would make the argument that, like you'd want to fund it a little bit more than just, the description.
I think that should be mentioned as opposed to the last 20 seconds for the sake of transparency and to play by the standard actual rules of sponsored stuff. I get.
Yeah, they're not actually they're not laws, they're YouTube rules. Technically a law surrounding it. Once again though, they'll be a bit weird because I believe it's a German company, so would they conform to German laws surrounding sponsorship sponsored content? Because I know in the US it's pretty bad actually. Like, you have to say you're sponsored. You can't just not say it, but you don't really have to put it out there. It is similar to this, but this is the issue actually with a lot of solicitors, which is that they know the law. First of all, they don't know the law in other countries, so they can fall into the trap of like, oh no, this is fine. No, you're a global company. It's not fine. And the second problem is that they will fall into is platforms. If I've got a YouTube channel on YouTube, sure, that may not break YouTube's the laws, but that if it breaks YouTube's terms of service, my channel could be banned for that, and I can't take any recompensations because they're like, no, you broke the terms of service. You can't. Those are effectively our laws, so you can continue posting content elsewhere, but no, you can't. You've agreed to our terms of service. These are our laws. There's no, so it's just, what I'm saying is they do break YouTube laws.
Get that it's not technically a sponsor, but at the very
Yes,
least, you should disclose it and make it clear to everyone. I don't think that's good practice from them there. But right now, all he's doing is pointing out a lot of their funding comes from these grants and these VCs, and also using this one source, which is also funded by one of their investors. Funded by billionaires, we get it, but where's the pro-billionaire propaganda? That's what I'm saying. And from what I've read, it boils down to he's very
Again, company, but I guess, technically, I'm not sure what the CEO's involvement in the in the company is in the writing process. It might be just the writing direction. But yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of things there. But anyway, my point though, there with response to this point is once again, uh, watch the videos. If you talk about like, replacement for like meats and stuff like that, then there you go. There's your pro billionaire investment stuff. He's invested in. So
or the channel's very optimistic when it comes to the bleak topics, which
yeah,
they're painting.
that's not a good thing though. Being optimistic towards something which is happening is not good. It's not good to have an idea of like, oh, look at the world around us. It's crumbling. But don't worry. I'm sure innovation will solve this. So sit back, lads. I'm sure we'll be fine. No. That's not how you solve climate change. Not by going, yeah, I'm sure innovation will solve it. Yeah, it'll become cheaper in the future and everything. Yeah, I'm sure. I can't afford to heat my home at the moment. So how would I ever put solar panels on unless they fall below the cost to heat my home for like a month? Which would be insane. But of course, I can't get to the point that I can heat my home at that price until I have someone else. This is the issue. People say it's like, the rich are in the position that they are able to have less costly lives because they're able to buy things like solar panels, and then that means that they, don't have to pay as much in electricity. They're able to buy electric cars, they don't have to pay as much in fuel, and all these things. It makes life so much cheaper, even though it costs a good bit more in the beginning. So, optimism is not good if you don't solve the issue.
Is it sucking the dick of their investors, which again is an impression I never got when watching the content.
That's the idea, buddy.
I'm curious to see what argument he makes for that.
It is that you
At
don't.
least $4.8 million from the Gates Foundation alone, but they were also funded by Open Philanthropy, Templeton, and William McCaskill. All of these entities had their series of sponsored videos at their kurzgesagt channel. Their partnership with Our World in Data was initiated by the grant from the Gates Foundation through the first video on overpopulation, made in collaboration with Max Roser, the founder and lead scientist of Our World in Data. Following this money trail led me to discover that the data in kurzgesagt videos isn't such a rock-solid science as they authoritatively present in their videos. Many of the numbers from Our World in Data kurzgesagt relies on so much are complete garbage. In the videos on overpopulation, they show this amazing decline in global poverty.
According to what?
A trend which they attribute to economic growth. But where is this data?
Here's the issue. I don't really get how people fail to understand this, but like, if you become wealthier, that's money that other people don't have. Now, if you're, let's say, worth 50 grand, right? And now you're worth 60 grand. Okay, so what you're doing there is you're actually taking back what was taken from you, Basically, it's the equivalent of, like, let's say someone breaks into your house, steals your money. It's like if you hunted them down and took your stuff back. Like, you didn't really do anything wrong there. Like, sure, you did technically break in, but you didn't, like, you just took your stuff back, right? So now we're even back. So when you make up to like 100 to 150 grand, when you're at that level, yeah, it's fine. Like, you're when you're at 150 grand, like, sure, that you got the money that you should have. So you've just taken it back from society. Now, maybe unfortunately you take it from the poorest in the world. That's unfortunate, but that is yours. You should have that 150 grand, right? The issue is when you start to be worth $1 million, $2 million, 20 million, 50 million, a billion, 10 billion, 100 billion. That's more than your fair share. And that's when your wealth starts to be a draw on others. Our economy is not really growing. We simply have money flowing around, but where is its final destination? The pockets of the billionaires. Who owns the country? Who owns the assets? Who owns all that money? Billionaires. So that's the point. You can't really have economic growth because this is the issue. Why do you think you have crashes? Why do you think you have inflation? Why do you think you have massive collapses? It's because you cannot have economic growth upon economic growth upon economic growth upon economic growth, because that's not how the economy works. You can't keep growing something from nothing without printing money. If you don't print money, then how exactly will you have more money once you have all the money? The only way to keep growing your economy is to sack it from other countries. To keep taking from them, to keep taking from them, to keep taking from them. But at the end of the day, eventually, you will reach a point where you have it all. And you can only go down from there.
Coming from? It's from Max Roser graph at Our World in Data. But look at how the data points go all the way back to the early 19th century.
I somehow doubt that, the American, European people are too prone to having collections of information from, Asia and Africa and Australia and places like that somehow.
None of these historical numbers are proven. Real data on poverty for the majority of the world didn't exist until 1981. Anything before that is a speculation. And who defines extreme poverty? The World Bank does. How? By calculating the lowest possible rate as an average from poverty lines of the poorest countries in the world. That's living below $1.90 a day.
So, Charlie, imagine your YouTube channel is earning you, roughly speaking, 2,000 views a day. Let's say 5,000 views a day to be nice and healthy. 5,000 views a day. Maybe even a little less if you're streaming. Imagine, if you will, that's your channel. Except this one video, which is, I believe, not his channel, got 1.4 million views. So, was this to be monetized? That's not a day, that's a few hours. Not even an hour, like less than an hour of work. And about 3 grand. That really puts into perspective, doesn't it? 3 grand for Charlie. And the minimum is 1.9. So, I wonder how one would do that. Like, that's about less than 1,000th of what this fella earns off of videos that he doesn't even have. Like, this is not his official channel. So for example, his channel, he'll be getting a lot more. I'm just thinking if he just set up a channel, right? So that's my point. Could you, Charlie, live off think you could. To be honest, I think you'd be dead pretty damn quickly. Because unless you stole food, you die of starvation.
Scholars strongly disagree with this rate and suggest at least $7.40 a day. With the World Bank's rate, billions of people that are extremely poor according to their national poverty lines end up in lower middle income regions, which is what makes the graph looks like this instead of this if we use the $7.40 line, or this if we leave out China. So not a dramatic decline at all, but an increase actually, or a stagnation.
No. An increase over time, yes. But actually a downward turn anyway. But obviously this is the issue with statistics. If I just said, oh no, from here, boom, look, it's a downward turn. It's probably gonna go down forever. Ignore the fact that it is higher than it was before. At this point, no, we don't have that point anymore. If we just draw a line here, right, there's no growing. So this is the issue with statistics. We expand that out, boom, looks great.
Nation at best since 1981. There's also half of the world's population suffering from hunger, food insecurity, and malnutrition.
And for information, we have enough food. Like I remember, I believe it was I said it before, and I remember listening to saying, "Oh, we need to find new ways of producing food, and and we have to use we can't build so much because we need to have land to grow. No, you don't. Or we need to get rid of cows because they take up more space, and we need to grow plants and crops to feed people. No, we produce food to feed about 10 billion people. But the problem is that not only does a lot of it get thrown out unnecessarily, but also we also have a lot of obesity. So a lot of people unfortunately are eating too much. That needs to be sorted out medically. But if you sorted that out, you could take that food and ship it elsewhere. But you also have just full on, no one has bought the food, so it goes rotten. Like it was fine before, but it rots because no one buys it. And the reason no one buys it is because it's too expensive for people who can't afford it to buy it. Or it's not in the hands. Like let's say you go to Las Vegas or Los Angeles. Let's say you're in Hollywood and you've got a shop filled to the brim with food. And at the end of the day, the food isn't sold. Not enough food is being sold. So, what do? Well, I have a solution for you. What if that food was not in where all the rich people live, but instead where all the poor people live? How about that? And you give it to them for free.
40 million modern slaves, and the ever-widening income gap between the richest and the poor. So really
and that's
hard
not even even if you talk about global north, global south, it's just literally, how much does the average person in general make in comparison? India, for example, is one of those countries that is known for being incredibly the income disparity, as well as China. Just you've got people earning the lowest of the low, but also mega billionaires. So it isn't just China's poor. It isn't just India's poor. It's not a country filled with poverty-stricken people. It's a country filled with poverty-stricken people and really, really rich people. Chinese billionaires from the highest level on the billionaire scale. Indian billionaires from the highest in the billionaires. It's not just, everyone in India is poor or middle class. There is an income disparity. Same in the US. People are earning a tiny amount of money, also billionaires. This makes the countries look a lot better. Look how much money it has. Yeah, but how much does the actual average person have? And I'm not counting that billionaire because they're not an average person. You have to calculate the average in a different way of like the average person. Line up every single person based off of salary. What's the middle option? You know, it's falling. We're getting less money in real terms. Like, obviously, inflation is causing more money. If you print more money, then what was 10,000, 50 years ago is more now.
Come to an optimistic conclusion that poverty is somehow on the decline.
But I just can't chalk that up to it necessarily being like propaganda. That could very well, once again, just be a more optimistic look at a very bleak subject.
But it's not optimism. It's just a fucking lie. It's just a lie. Now, whether it's a lie that they realize is a lie or not, the point is, they're wrong. They're telling a mistruth. Now, I'm not calling them a liar. I'm just saying they are wrong. Kurzgesagt is wrong. You know? And this is the issue. I hate the way this works with especially YouTubers. I remember I saw a YouTuber who was talking like about, right to repair. And they're like, oh, this law is bad. We already have website with prices listed on them. We already have reviews. Like, no, you already have that. You're thinking about yourself and going, oh, I already have this. I already meet these laws. I already do way beyond these laws. That is not the point. You are not the person this is directed at. So the issue with Kurzgesagt is they're going to be looking at this going, yeah, they're seeing their profits increase. They're seeing income increase. They're seeing all their increase. Germany is a terrible place to live in, really, if you want to look at, like, world poverty levels. Because there's mega rich people that you can hang around with, What I'm saying is mega rich people are not just on private boats. They're in the public. They're in the cities. They're out there for you to see. So, if you're someone who hangs around those circles, you'd see an increase. So when you see this, it just very much annoyed me. This attitude of like, oh, I do that already. That's happening because I can see it. Everything is not about you or around you. This happens with honesty as well. Just because you're an honest person doesn't mean everyone else is. So, why do you think it's an issue that they would say this? Because it's not true. It's not optimistic to just be wrong. Like if I was like, oh yeah, Belgium is the capital of France. No, it's not. And I was like, I'm just being optimistic about Belgium being the capital, but it's not though. But if it was, it would be really good, wouldn't it? I mean, okay, but it's not. It's not. It's not though. Like, what if France just like formed in around Belgium and was like, this is ours now, and we're gonna make it a capital. Yep. The entire country. That's right. Just one capital. I mean, what I'm saying is that's not gonna happen because it doesn't make any sense. That's not optimism. That's just you being wrong. And it's fine to be wrong. I'm not saying it, but I'm just saying it's just not optimism. Let's be honest.
And I've seen that video. I just didn't get the impression that it was... It just feels like Optimism equal propaganda. Thanks to the prime skill in the resub bin. What does this have to do? The point he's making is the data they present paints a much prettier picture than the real data, because they're using the $1.90 a day model, which makes it look like it's declining, but that's not what a lot of people seem to agree on. Most people seem to agree that the 740 is the poverty line, and using that data, it's actually been increasing.
Ask yourself, could you live on 190 a day? Would you be able to live on that? The answer is no. No, you couldn't. In my country, the dole is more than that. The dole is more than that. The unemployment, that's the point. If your government is literally like, no, we'll give you more than that, then clearly, that's not accurate. If I applied for job seekers allowance in my country, I would get more than 190. You know? I would get more than 190. Think about that. You know?
It's right now it's being accused of trying to paint it
as living on the dole living on job seekers allowance supposed to be comparable to like 10 times, almost, not quite. No, it's not 10 times, but 5 times the poverty line. It's clearly not. The job seekers allowance is less than the living wage. Do you realize that? So no, what bullshit is that?
As a declining thing when it's really not. Like, it just really seems like that's still a pretty fair metric overall, but what
the fuck?
And it's a more optimistic look at it, but it doesn't seem like
it's not optimistic. It's just fucking wrong.
It's coming from a place of trying to be. It doesn't seem like it's coming from a place of just trying to suck up to the people that give them the money. False.
Why are they using incorrect information? You know. What? It's wrong information. So what you're saying is they just do shit work then. Because they get millions and yet they can't even bother to do basic information. Like, they can't even process, like, that is, like, literally, who exactly looks at the information like, oh, okay, this is, okay, so everyone living under 190. Who doesn't think, oh, would I be able to live off on that? No, you wouldn't though, would you?
Information though in general, I wouldn't. It's not false. The information itself isn't wrong, but it's using a metric.
It is wrong.
That not everyone agrees on.
No, not ever. Ask yourself, buddy. Could you live off that? The answer is no.
So it's using a different metric than what other people seem to prefer, but that doesn't mean it's false.
It is false though. This is why I have a problem with this. This fucker is like actually just very brain dead. Like, how do you not? I think this is issue with rich people. Like this. Okay, come on. Worth millions. Worth millions. So come on. What can we expect? Millionaire, going about the place, making videos. They're not really gonna think about it, are they? But as I said, Charlie, if your videos were getting 5,000 views, would you be able to live your life? If that was your only job, just your videos are getting 5,000 views, okay? Maybe. Fine then. Magic wand. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. There we are. Suddenly, MoistCr1tikal YouTube channel is getting 5,000 views every video. Bank has been drained of all the money he has now, so start from the start. Maybe even give him a bit of debt, like college student debt, that sort of thing. So give him 50 grand debt. We'll see how long he lives. That's his only job. 5,000 views video. Maybe even a little less. Sure. Let's see how long it lasts.
It could be manipulative, though, to paint the narrative in a different way than the reality. But I still don't even know if I fully agree with that take on it either.
Well, then you're just brain dead. Just brain dead.
I'd have to rewatch the video to see exactly what arguments are being made.
But it is a conclusion touted by Bill Gates, who also paid for this video to be made.
As the economist Max Roser has said,
the world has done quite well on this.
the newspapers could have run a headline.
The lives of the poor will improve more in the next 15 years than at any other time in history.
Number of people in poverty fell by 137,000 since yesterday.
Comes out as what for many people will be a stunningly positive story.
Many videos made in part.
Can I explain to you how mathematics works? This is just like basic maths. So imagine you've got a big pot of money, and Bill and all his billionaire friends take out a couple of $1 trillion. The thing is, buddy, that's more than their fair share. So that means that they have to take it from other people. If their wealth keeps growing, it means that either they're taking it from the middle classes, or they're taking it from, people who are poor, or both. And perhaps it's both, or perhaps it's just the poor people. But I very much doubt that they just take it from the middle classes. Because that would be impossible, seeing as that's not how, the economy works. But anyway, that's just a little thing for you maths nerds out there, just basic maths, I know. Right, it's just plus and minus, really, and, but people just seem to really misunderstand that, and I hate this sort of, like, weird reaction to billionaires and millionaires. It's like, oh no, it's fine to be a millionaire. No, it's not. You're a little greedy thief. You have more money than you should have. By being a billionaire, you have money that should be in other people's hands. So no, it's not okay to be a billionaire.
With our world in data can be dissected like this. Look at the numbers on historical emissions from the video on who is responsible for climate change. Where are these numbers coming from? Our world in data.
Wait, sorry. What? What was this? Did they say 1%?
Who is responsible for climate change? Where are these numbers coming from?
Within the EU, the UK is responsible for 1%. 1%. Are you joking me? 1%? Oh my god, that's just laughable. That's just laughable. Like, yeah, definitely.
From our world in data, of course, but that's just one source that conveniently downplays the role of the developed countries in climate change. According to a paper from Lancet, funded by no one, the US is responsible not for 25% of emissions, but 40%. The EU is responsible for 29% instead of
sense. I would even say it could be higher.
22. G8 emitted.
Is this the one that came out in
85%
September of
historical
2020?
CO2, and the
Because this is the one I might have just been talking about. Yeah, so this paper came out in September 2020. The video he's critiquing with this information came out in June of 2020. They wouldn't have had this information available.
Buddy. the EU didn't just suddenly grow its fucking emissions by like almost double, you know? Didn't see the EU just go, oh, guys, we've just, almost doubled our production of, our use of energy. We just doubled our textile manufacturing. We just doubled our cars. No, that didn't fucking happen, man. That didn't happen. Do you understand? That information, was kind of out there, was kind of obvious. So basically, your argument is, oh, well, they didn't have the correct study. That means they still used a false study. It didn't change by that much. As someone who's lived in the EU, I can tell you, we didn't just suddenly double. Or almost double. Like, what is this?
To them to make this topic, or
Also,
to include in this
it anyway, like, this is a study from
topic. There would have been no way. So this, like, maybe now, if they had made this video, after this came out, that video would have turned out very differently. We have no way of knowing, but they had no way of being able to incorporate this information. It's not like they
Look, no, but the point is, this is a funny story. Basically, let's say there's a study going on, and the study's being conducted, and they don't know the exact figures, right? But we all know, right, that the EU is one of the biggest contributors to greenhouse gases than any other country besides, like, the US. The US is a major contributor. Then you got like places like China, Canada, and the thing is that the EU is a big player there. We all know that, right? We're aware of that. It makes sense, right? The EU is comprised of like some of the biggest, like, industrial nations. So you have like France, Germany, Spain, Portugal, was the UK before. They're big users of those industries. Now you also have emerging markets like India and China, but the thing is that they're still not producing that level. No. So my question to you is, when looking at this information, you could already see that our world data was clearly wrong. Clearly wrong. Now you might have gone, okay, so we don't know the exact figures, but they're wrong. Like if I told you China was responsible for 99% of emissions and India was the other 1%. No emissions for the US, no emissions for Europe. Good God, no. You would know that to be not true. You would know that's not true because you would know your electricity comes from fossil fuels. You know that's not true. So maybe you don't know the exact figures, but you do know that this source is wrong. Come on. Sure, they can't use this specific source. And maybe this source was the first source ever to give out the specific figures. But you knew our world in data was wrong. So why did you include them? Either you make the video and you give a rough sort of like, this is the roughly what they're at, or you don't make the video.
maliciously left it out and ignored it. They just didn't have it.
But why did they include our world in data? This is the problem.
I'll double check, but let's see. Which video was this one? This one's the emissions video, right? Yep, June 21st, 2020.
If you skip
And the
that,
paper that
fuck you.
he is now referring to came out in September of that year. They just didn't have the information available. They didn't just ignore it and leave it out on purpose. It didn't exist at the time. Or at least, not publicly. Maybe if they were funded more heavily by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they could have peered into the future and gotten a hold of this paper before it went live. But yeah, when this video came out, they did not.
Yeah, that does happen actually, because studies have to be checked. So how studies will work that are good studies, they'll do the study and then they'll do it again and then they do it again. They check multiple times, use different people, they use all these sort of things to ensure that there isn't any bias in there. Well, and to ensure that they don't have any flukes. So if one study brings up like, oh, this figure, you go, okay, well, then we'll do it again, Okay, this one we can drop because it's off the chart. It's nowhere near. So we will have to do it again, and you ensure that you're able to get like roughly. When I did my study, I did 3 times with 3 different factors and multiple people. So multiple people I was testing on. So that was more than 3 people, but like 3 different times. So that was the study I did there, and that is something where if I did that first time, that might take a month for this kind of thing. That might take 2 months. That might take half a year. So it would take a year and a half, probably more, to do the full thing. So you can, if you're in this scientific world, you can look into current studies that are being done. Although, I would say, to be fair to kurzgesgt, if they did know that the study wasn't published yet, they would probably be aware of, like, you don't do that. You don't just go, oh, this study says this. Is it completed yet? No. Is it the first round of testing, which could be completely wrong? Yes. But it says it, like, yeah, but even the scientists on the study are like, no, this is not conclusive because you haven't done the study yet, fully.
Have it. That's why none of that information is there. They wouldn't have used it anyway since they always use the same source. Again, that's speculative though, which...
No, it's not though. Because I feel like people will be a little bit critical. Like, imagine if you criticize keep going, okay, so we use this source. Let's say publish the video later on and they use this source. You go, well, the source you use every single time. Every single, like, not every single time, but like most times, is contradicting this. So why? Why?
Oh, you're not the guy that was just talking about speculative for the last couple of points. That is speculative. Maybe they wouldn't have used it, maybe they would. We have no way of knowing for sure. All I'm saying is this video came out before this. It's not like they didn't just leave...
Yeah, I would wait for your man to say, maybe he'll say, maybe the hated one will say, oh, obviously this video came out afterwards. So
this out, they didn't maliciously omit this information, it didn't exist. Maybe they wouldn't have used it? Couldn't tell you. No one can.
Role of the developed countries in climate change. According to a paper from Lancet, funded by no one, the US is responsible not for 25% of emissions, but 40%.
Makes sense.
The EU is responsible for 29% instead of 22%. G8 emitted 85% of historical CO2, and the global north is accountable for 92% of excess carbon in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
These numbers draw a much less equitable share of responsibility than kurzgesgt. As I was analyzing more and more videos, I actually discovered a plot I did not expect to find. In a couple of separate videos on climate change, kurzgesgt briefly mentions seemingly random selection of innovations.
Or a new generation of nuclear power plants to new batteries, electronics and steel, low carbon production of cement, artificial meat, carbon capture, direct air capture, and carbon capture.
There doesn't seem to be any objective merit as to why I mentioned these in particular, but they do have in common 2 things.
Carbon capture is not very effective at all. Like, at all.
Bill Gates has invested millions into startups developing low-carbon cement, steel, batteries, alternative meat, nuclear energy, and carbon capture.
Wait, why is alternative meat thrown in here? Everyone is invested in alternative meat. It was one of the biggest fucking Silicon Valley investments for everyone. I have a fucking friend who...
See, this is my problem with the world. Everyone's invested in it, like, I gave $1 million to the company. Like, this kind of shite. Like, this is the problem. What kind of psychology is that everyone's I'm not invested. You know why? Because I don't have the money, buddy. I don't have the money. And the thing is now, lab grown meat, you know what that might cause? Is that gonna help you? Is that really gonna help your healthy life? Are you really gonna have a healthy lifestyle if you're gonna be eating meat? No, meat isn't very healthy for you, and lab-grown meat is far too expensive at the moment. So I feel like Also, can I just explain this to you? It doesn't really matter if it is helpful. The point is trying to make is that if I invest in a company when it's really expensive to do this thing, so I invest $20 million, let's say. If that drops in price and people start buying it, well, guess what, my boy? It turns out there I might have a bit of a problem there because my investment is going to go up. And the issue with that is, well, when I start pushing for media outlets to say that, that you should invest, that sounds similar to this fucker's friends, his friends and possibly even himself, I'm not sure, they're kind of crypto scams, This fellow who defends Mr. Beast and it's like, oh, what's that? Market manipulation. You invest in a company and then you say, you know what, guys? This is an innovation. You should invest in it. I mean, that is market manipulation. No, that's market manipulation. You buy into a company and then you tell your friends, your family, you tell all the world, you should invest. 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 Invest.
Who invested in Impossible Foods back in Jesus Christ, 2013. I don't think that one's necessarily on the same level as the other shit where there's some kind of ulterior motive perhaps that you could digest. Everyone invested in alternative meat.
No, they fucking didn't. What is in this guy's brain? It's something something rotting his brain must be. Like, everyone is invested, you remember when they listed all the investors in all these things, 8 billion investors in these businesses. Obviously, every single person on the planet invested in these businesses. Everyone, every single person. You know that 23-year-old who was they died in the coffee plantation, and that mother who had their baby killed by Nestle, murdered by Nestle. Yeah, they were invested in the lab-grown meat as well. Just everyone across the world. Yeah, famous thing that everyone is invested in. I've never met someone who is invested in it, actually. Like, what's in that brain? I mean, maybe I'm misunderstanding what he's trying to say, but it just seems like it's rotted.
So there are a couple things this channel has done that has been pointed out, I didn't know, that I do find a bit odd, and I don't think is handled correctly. But then there's a couple things this video is mentioning that are just wrong, such as the emissions thing. Their emissions video was made in June 21st of 2020. The paper that this video cites as the contradictory evidence that proves some of these numbers are incorrect didn't come out until...
Okay. But we all knew our world and data was wrong, buddy, because we can see from who produces the most. We don't know the exact figures, as in we don't know the exact percentages back then, but guess what? We actually kind of do from other studies. They simply cited one study that they used. But guess what? We all knew, buddy, that our world in data were fucking liars. We knew that. Do you understand? Just because we didn't know the exact figures, and they didn't quote the exact figures, like we kind of did because there's other studies that we could use, does not mean we didn't know that they were lying. We did know.
What the fuck was it? September of 2020. So the information wasn't there. They didn't just ignore it. It just wasn't fucking.
The hated one probably should not have used a study that was. I'm just saying. It's not fair to go, oh, no, they couldn't have known. It's not like it's obvious. It's not like, wait, what? UK only produces 1% of global emissions? I mean, that's, wow, like, that must be true. It's not like, what? What's that? Oh! 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 So no, that would make very little sense.
There, they couldn't predict the future, so it's a bad point. No matter how you spin it, it's a bad point.
It's not a bad
that information.
It's a bad use of to back up your point. Like if I say, oh, the murder rate has been increasing in this place for years, and then I use a study. From the future when that person that's saying the murder rate has stagnated didn't have that. Yes, but the thing is, that's a study from then. But the facts didn't fucking change, They didn't change. We didn't suddenly start producing more. We knew this. My God.
Information was not available to them. They couldn't have cited it.
Just get on with it, please.
They could have retracted. Maybe they should have. I'd have to rewatch this video. But if I recall correctly, the end of this video still does call out corporations and the countries as being the main culprits of emissions and the main drivers.
Ignores the likes of Bill Gates and says it's the oil companies. Their lobbying efforts are really, really bad, guys. But Bill Gates is here. He's here to breathe in new innovation by buying up shares in a company and doing nothing else. Okay.
Of the problems with the climate. So the overall message is still accurate regardless of the numbers, but maybe it is so egregious they should have retracted it. That's a fair argument. I could agree with you there. I'd have to rewatch it.
Energy and carbon capture. And none of these technologies have proven to be commercially viable or scalable enough to make them count.
Yeah.
The innovations lack robust scientific backing, and experts do not agree relying on them is a valid strategy.
Wait, sorry, I have to catch this.
Scientific backing, and experts do not agree.
What did he say? I couldn't catch that. Apologies. If any of you have caught that, you can say so in the comment section. But
relying on them is a valid strategy. Many videos on topics that align with the interests of kurzgesgt Billionaire sponsors are frequently sprinkled with messaging about how investments and innovations will solve a problem or make the world a better place.
By investing in these things right now,
See?
investment and aid
boom!
and
Invest. Just help Bill do a bit of market manipulation, guys. He invests in a company and he pays, millions to another media outlet to tell you to invest in that company. I mean, it's less direct than Elon Musk, but just like, buy my shares now. I bought this coin. You go buy now. Not in those words, but like, you could almost argue that Elon Musk is less because he's more like, I've announced that I've bought shares here, and then his fans go off and buy them. He could be like, I didn't tell them to buy them. They're just fucking stupid. Not my fault. It's not my fault they're stupid enough to go out and buy them just because I said I was invested. But this, like, but you pay the media outlet bill to tell them to invest. That's pretty upfront market manipulation.
Fair investment. Is investment massive investment as investment pours in?
It's obnoxious how often this happens.
Reinvest in innovation that lead to innovation, the nature of innovation. And innovation, but innovation, the more time we give innovation, and innovations like artificial meat.
Can't really
status for
innovate
qual-
around the climate crisis. Like, I'm sure someone will invent a solution. Let's just give him time. It's 2080. Are they coming yet, lads? Drill run for our bunkers, lads. We just need to go into the bunkers quickly. It's just a drill, to see. Lock down the bunker doors. Don't let them in. Don't let the commoners in. We can't let them in. Yeah. Thanks for your investment. It really helped us out there.
Quality of
The artificial meat again. Again, I don't feel like there's anything wrong with just mentioning innovation. If he's calling to action to invest in these things, obviously that's a problem. But just mentioning things that are innovative.
I just showed you the comic first. Oh god. No, the idea is, the problem is, you can't have optimism where it's like, I'm sure someone will invent something. Okay. Great confidence in the world.
Innovating in the fields to hopefully make it better is once again just optimism. Optimism does not just inherently equal propaganda. Because, I mean,
But
Jesus Christ.
optimism does not also inherently mean you will have this thing. You know? I can just go, I'm sure people will invent, I don't know. Self-driving, maybe, no. I don't know, some invention that's really useful. I'm sure they'll invent that. No, but you can't just be sure. Optimism, where is the idea that they will? It's not just, oh, I'm sure this thing will be alright in the end. That's like natural occurrence, But this is more like, no, someone does have to invent this thing. They do have to seek out to do something. If everyone sits back, it will not happen. It's not just like, oh, I'm sure I'll find my keys. Yeah, maybe you will. Maybe you'll go about your day and you'll go put your hand in the bowl and those are your keys. Because the fact is, your keys are in the bowl. That's a fact. Will we definitely have, this invention? No, we don't definitely have that in the future. You have to actually go and try and invent it. Well, or, try and invent something.
Everything gets innovated. AI technology came out of nowhere and it's changing the whole fucking game. I don't.
Okay, that's not true though. Technology came out of nowhere, except it didn't though. Actually, it just didn't. Like, it just subjectively didn't. I'm sorry, it just didn't. Like, people have been talking about AI for generations almost, in that kind of sense of, like, of technology. Like, AI began with computing and everything, and AI began then when you had computers doing processes, began to automate stuff, and then they were like, okay, well, how about we push in some more? How about we are able to give it this, able to do that, able to do that, able to do that, able to do that, able to do that. It's had a massive spike in recent years, but it didn't come out of nowhere. It has had loads of time to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow for all these years. No, it did not come out of nowhere. People didn't just go, oh, I'm sure AI will happen, and then just do nothing. Computer scientists, engineers, people had to spend loads of time working on it. Someone didn't just wake up in the morning and find Chat GPT just on the computer. Boom! Look at that. Just happened, you know. No, you have to train that. You have to feed it in. It's not how technology works.
I don't think there's anything wrong with mentioning innovative things that are in that ballpark that you're talking about.
Data is profoundly lowered in order to make these hidden injections work. In the instance of carbon capture, Kurzgesagt pulled the numbers on cost straight from a Gates-funded magazine, who took the number from a Gates-funded private carbon capture facility. But that's the lowest estimate. In reality, it could be as much as twice as expensive today, and still at least twice as expensive as trees are right now than carbon capture is projected to be in the most optimistic estimates, which won't be real until at least the next.
And the thing is, you also need to stop burning down trees.
Rather than solving the climate crisis, many scientists argue such investments divert attention away from more impactful solutions and delay phasing out of modern industrial methods and fossil fuel.
People say, "Oh, trees don't work because they all they're doing is holding the carbon in." That only actually works if you continue exporting carbon. But if you don't, trees will grow other trees. You comprehend that, right? Like, trees have not just been on this planet for all eternity. Humans didn't just come along and go and start planting trees. Trees will grow other trees. So, if you plant the trees, not only will you get those trees, but also, potentially, more trees. Now, obviously, it will be decades and upon decades upon decades. But the point still stands. You'll still get those trees. So, obviously, though, you do have to make sure that no one burns those trees down, because then that's pointless.
Dependence. Kurzgesagt doesn't tell you which technologies Bill Gates is invested in and how positive messaging about them is advancing his positions. But Kurzgesagt did take the effort to mention exactly those technologies that Bill Gates and his billionaire friends are most invested in. There is a pattern that can explain why Kurzgesagt videos are like this. In many videos that coincide with Bill Gates' interests, they collaborate with our world in data or prioritize their content on these issues. In their video on Do We Need Nuclear Energy to Stop Climate Change, Kurzgesagt prominently links to Our World in Data's pieces on nuclear energy. This video is not sponsored by Gates, but the billionaire is betting heavily on his new generation.
The thing is, though, Skillshare is an awful company as well.
Of nuclear reactors. Kurzgesagt's source document links to Our World in Data 27 times, or about every third reference. Kurzgesagt made videos heavily criticizing,
which is something I do think is lazy, at the very least. Even if not malicious, it's beyond lazy to only use one source for the information, especially when there's something like that. So I think that point is fair, and especially because that is just... I think that's just not a good look if you do receive money from the grant that also funds that. At the very least, use other sources to corroborate the information. I think that's a very clear, obvious thing.
I don't necessarily think that you need other sources necessarily to be in the description, but the issue is that you're only listing from one source in actual fact. Like, I don't always list, I don't list my sources, but I have multiple sources in the, I read multiple sources, I watch multiple sources, and I take that in, and then there you go. Now, obviously, I'm not publishing a scientific paper in this, but you know what I'm trying to say is when I say something, I'm thinking about other sources. I'm not going, oh, look at this, and then I have to make. If you make sure you have to have a source to back up every single thing you're saying, the issue is you will be in the position where you're gonna have to find sources that meet you. So then you're going to begin to have only one source, or only a few sources.
Even if not malicious, it's lazy. I don't know if it's malicious or they're just using that because it's convenient, but still, just use more than just that main source.
Organic food. This is another topic of major investment from Gates, who thinks
Bill Gates was also an investor in fake meat companies.
industrialized agriculture with pesticides and GMOs is the best approach to solving world hunger.
Which is bullshit. Like, actually bullshit. We produce, as I said already, enough food to feed 10 billion people. That's more than we have today. Well, that's the reason why that's not being done. It's because of prices, and also because, it's in the hands of the wrong people.
Which it hasn't solved so far. In all 4 cases where kurzgesagt draws verdict on organic food, our world in data is cited as reference.
What?
kurzgesagt draws verdict on organic food.
Well, I mean, you can choose between having organic or dying from your food. I mean, I would say the reason why you choose to die from your food would be because you can't afford organic. But I mean, if you want to have a policy of is organic good in general, my response to that is obviously better than pesticide food. Obviously. Would you like if if your bread was just covered in arsenic? Back in Victorian England? Oh, there you go. Some nice arsenic in your bread there. Eat up, I'm sure you'll be fine. Don't worry though, because the arsenic actually makes the bread significantly cheaper, so you'll be able to afford this bread. For now. The organic stuff, the stuff that doesn't have poison in it, no, that's out of your price limit. That is an argument. Sure, I understand. I can't afford to buy organic food, right? But if I had the money, or if the price of organic food was lower, I would buy it. Because it is better, objectively.
Our world in data is cited as reference. This video is also not sponsored by Gates. The most generous billionaire as reference. This video is also not sponsored by
I mean, once again though, it is sponsored by Skillshare, who are not known for being very reputable.
Gates. The most generous billionaire is one of the earliest backers of alternative meats, owning major positions
this is becoming
in
like a
vegan
big part
and
of the
meat-free
video.
protein companies. kurzgesagt has made a series of videos on meat, all with a strong verdict on how meat is bad for you and the environment. All of these videos were advised on by Hannah Ritchie, one of the key lieutenants at Our World in Data. During the production of at least one video, Ritchie was a business manager at a meat-free microprotein company. Whatever your take on meat is, these are conflicts of interest that should normally be disclosed by any serious research. But kurzgesagt makes no effort to help you connect the dots.
I don't think I've watched those videos from him. I can't imagine with the videos I watch that he makes this video and it's not just like a look at what meat does to the body, which is something you can confirm with tons and tons and tons and tons of evidence. Like,
yes, but lab-grown meat, does that stop that? Are you sure it will? Because you seem to be investing quite a lot of money in something that might not actually help the body out that much. I mean, you could choose just to go vegetarian. Also, by the way, if you're gonna make meats, don't make beef. Just make chicken. Chicken is far like poultry, so like chicken, duck, goose. Those sort of meats are actually far less bad for the body than beef, lamb, that sort of stuff. So just if you wanna still eat meat, but move away from the carcinogenic stuff, move away from the stuff that's as bad for the environment, move to poultry like chicken, duck, goose, swan. Don't eat swan. You know, that sort of thing. Unless you don't eat swan, I mean, because they're like not. You just need them because on principle, it's not very nice. I mean, what I was saying, like, on principle, it's not very nice. Killing an animal to consume its flesh. Like, that's not very nice. But you know what I mean? Like, it's for, like, this, for the, like, species is what I'm trying to say. Like, you know, chickens are not necessarily going to die out as a species because you kill them and eat them. Obviously, it's really fucked up to do that to an animal. Sorry, I don't know. Sorry.
There's plenty of things you can say about meat or what the agriculture industry is currently doing to the world. Like, there's
Yeah. Obviously, the animals are treated terribly.
plenty of evidence out there for that. And I can't imagine there's anything that he's saying that's like, we need to invest in impossible meat at the moment. But maybe he does. I know sometimes meat is not healthy, but we don't care. I've got some breaking news for you. Nutritional science is such a fickle and ever-changing thing. Whatever is accepted as truth last year is probably outdated by this.
No, actually, meat is carcinogenic. If it's like beef, it will fuck up your lungs. It will say not your lungs. It will fuck up your your internal organs, not your lungs. That's what cigarettes would do, and your esophagus. For cigarettes. But meat is bad for you. Okay, let's just get that out of the board. No, it is. Don't tell me it's not. It is. I have eaten meat in the past. Okay, I'm not like anti. I'm not like vegan or anything out there. Like being like, oh, you should be a vegan or anything. But I'm just saying, it is true. It is bad for you. Let's just, yeah, you know. Whether lab grown meat will do that. I think though other people would say, well, not lab grown meat, but like plant based meat. If whether lab grown meat will be able to do that for you, will be able to remove that from you. I'm not quite sure. Who knows yet? But meat from a actual like a cow is going to be bad for you. Maybe as a treat now and again, possibly. But if you eat consistently, yeah, it's bad for you. Maybe something else will get to you first. Not saying if you eat beef that you'll definitely die from the beef. I'm just saying many people have. It leads to cancer. So
This year.
just
I studied so much nutrition in college and fucking all of it's worthless now. The main takeaway is no one fully understands what effect the nutrition has on the human body.
No. This isn't nutrition, though. This isn't, oh, this will give you more energy. This will make you fatter. This will make you less fat. This will get... No, that isn't what this is talking about. This is talking about internal organs. What happens to a burger if it goes into your stomach acid? What happens to it there? What's the effect on your internal organs? That isn't your mood. That isn't any of this, stuff. It isn't how much energy it gives you. It isn't, for example, the sugar lobby pushed for ignore sugar as a factor in causing fatting. You shouldn't ignore sugar when it comes to fats. Sugar makes you fatter. That sort of thing. Sure, we can call that fickle. We can say, yeah, sure, that's useless. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking the actual long-term effects of that on your internal organs. What does that do to you? That can cause cancer. So, let's not be...
It is constantly evolving. There are some things that stay consistent, but on the whole, it's constantly...
That's not really the same thing, though.
Changing. One thing that doesn't change, though, is the current agricultural industry is just in a bad spot. Just in a genuinely bad spot.
Kurzgesagt is terrible at disclosing their sponsors. I did
Agreed.
a poll of my audience to see when they think channels should disclaim sponsorship. Most people would prefer...
Completely agree with that point.
or before the video starts or during
Wait,
the
what?
intro.
Okay, the 7% of people must be fucking with him. He's like, no, this shouldn't be required at all. I prefer not to know who paid for the content I'm seeing. Yeah, I would not do that. Description only 5%, really? After the intro, 6%. During intro, before the video starts. Before the video starts. I can't do it before the video. But maybe YouTube in the future will have like a feature where you could like add like a title. This video is sponsored by, and it would have like an automated voice. I don't know. Maybe they will in the future. So that, like, you can't, you know, I don't know.
kurzgesagt never
Can't skip
reveals their sponsors until the very end of their videos. Some sponsors were declared in the last few seconds of the video, some were only mentioned in the text on screen, and in at least one instance, the only disclaimer of sponsorship was in the description. This is a low bar even for YouTube. Plenty of good educational creators disclose their sponsors up front. Why should kurzgesagt be given a pass? Most people who do not watch videos till the very last second, or who cannot read everything that's on the screen, would
For information, NordVPN is also a bad company. I just have to say, sponsors in general on YouTube tend to be very bad. Mostly because, well, either it's propaganda like this. I mean, why exactly would you give grants to a company that for this? Like, doesn't make much sense. Or, you know, it's like, because that's the question. Why would you give grants? Why? Why would you give grants for just repetitive information? This isn't new. Kurzgesagt is not giving you new information. You know, they're not doing journalism. They're just repackaging back up for you to swallow. Making good videos, but at the end of the day, it's not new information. It'd be new for you, but it's not new information. The only reason to fund this is not, oh, so I can get some research. It's not so we can look into things. It's to get it out there, into the world, so it's viewed by people. That's the purpose. Basically, NordVPN is pretty bad, and most sponsors are bad because they need to make a return on the ad spend. So whatever they spend on advertisements, they have to make that back. So the more you spend on ads, the more you have to get back. And the problem is, because of how YouTube works, if you keep sponsoring me, and I've already signed up for NordVPN from you, that's one person you cannot get again. So for every single person who signs up, that's less people you can actually get for the next sponsorship.
would never be aware of the extent to which kurzgesagt videos are sponsored by billionaires. kurzgesagt also does a terrible job at explaining who their sponsors actually are.
This video is part of a series about climate change supported by Breakthrough Energy,
In their climate change video sponsored by Breakthrough Energy, you're told it is just
a coalition founded by Bill Gates that's working to expand clean energy.
Founded by Bill Gates, the fella who, remember, stole a bunch of technology from Apple when they were collaborating with each other. So even as a business person, he's an unethical little shite. I mean, back in the day. And also he laughed at the monopoly laws and was like, ha 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 ha. And then they were like, fuck you, man. And forced that the Microsoft Edge stuff. But you know. Oh, by the way, Bill, don't sue me for that thing about Apple. I mean, I'm just saying, like, you were influenced by seeing their technology and you had similar ideas.
Investment and support the innovations that will lead the world to net zero carbon emissions.
But they don't tell you that Breakthrough Energy is a bunch of venture capitalist funds where billionaires stand to make huge profits.
This is why I don't like this fan. I don't like him, because wouldn't be surprised if he's in there with
From
them.
adoption of technologies they invest their billions into. Kurzgesagt left a link.
Does that necessarily mean that it's not fighting for that goal, though?
Are you a fucking idiot? They're venture capitalists, buddy. What do you think their job is? It's to make a bunch of money, boys. And you can't really be making a bunch of money when the climate is taken away. Because there's only two avenues approach to going there. Either, buddy, they don't really care about the climate and they just want to make a nice bit of money on the side before it goes pop. Or else, they do care about the climate. They just want to make sure that if we do solve this problem, they come out on the other side with all the new technologies in their pocket. Because if that's the case, and they control the new ways of doing stuff, basically, that means they can become the new, what's it called? The cartel that like Qatar, Russia, and all the rest of them. I forget what it's called, but like Saudi Arabia, they're all part of. Basically, they can become that. They can become the new Tyson Foods. They can seize control of food manufacturing. They can seize control of energy production. They can seize control of all these industries. Is that a very bright future for you? Fucking idiot.
Everything's profit driven. Literally everything.
Actually, no. Governments oftentimes are not. But anyway, just ignore the fact that we could do government funding.
Legitimately fucking everything.
No, not everything though. Just not true. Well, I guess that's the problem with a greedy YouTuber. Always like, oh, watch my stuff. Watch this thing. I'm launching this thing. Okay, yeah, guys, go to this thing. Indeed. My YouTubers are some of the worst people on the planet. You know that? TikTokers, though, are worse than YouTubers.
But are they not actually what he claims they are? Because that would be a big problem. I don't think that's a very strong point.
In the description that leads to Gates' book sale, but not the fund's official website. YouTube has a policy that flags channels funded by governments with a label that informs viewers of this financial conflict. This was enacted with the aim of combating government misinformation on the platform. You can see this on Kurzgesagt German channel that is backed by the government, and YouTube labels it as a German PBS. This same standard should be applied to private funding too. There should be a label that cannot be arbitrarily set or removed by the creator that discloses upfront who is funding their videos. Media consolidation is a major threat to diversity of views, and billionaires, including the ones funding Kurzgesagt, are the main driver behind this trend.
I do wonder, and maybe I'll have to go back and watch, if he did disclose at the very beginning or had that label that this channel's talking about, would that change the perception of the information? Because once again, every time I've watched one of their pieces of content, I've never really felt like it was trying to skew me in like investment in the lab-grown meat or anything, even if it was just talking about it.
That will be the point. Once again, is this like the 9th time I've said this? Something like that. The point is to make you think like, oh, we should do this. This is what we should do. If you knew it was propaganda, you probably wouldn't do as they say. In fact, some stubborn people would deliberately do the opposite, But if you just think, yeah, we should probably do that. Have you ever you just defended lab grown meat and just defended everyone's invested in that, man? Except no, they're not.
And it could be beneficial in the future. I've never really got the impression that I was ever there to...
Vegans, famously, they love lab-grown meat. They're famous for really loving meat. Vegans, they just love it, That's why all the vegans have invested in these companies. I guess maybe some vegans have, although it's kind of like contradictory. Like, you'd still not be like, you wouldn't be a vegan if you ate lab grown meat. You understand that? Because it's still cattle. It's still a living thing that's dead, though. It's just it's taken out. They just grow cells. But that's still a living thing you ate. In a way. Just saying.
Really necessarily promote something, more so just talk about everything around the topic. So I wonder if that was at the beginning, if the perception would change, like it feels like an ad. Yeah, people hate Gates. Setting aside Bill Gates, let's assume it was anything, literally anything that seemed like it could be a conflict. I just wonder if that would even change the information. If the video stayed exactly the same, but at the beginning it was mentioned like, hey, this was partially funded by X. Does that change how I perceive the
Billionaire group.
information? Will I now feel like I'm getting more of an ad as opposed to like education on a topic?
Would you not be concerned if in your educational content it was, imagine if you were going to school and at the beginning of every single class the teacher said, and remember guys, these books were were approved and sponsored by the Billionaire group, the Billionaires, wanting you to know that they're definitely good people and not bad at all, because you should definitely let them live.
I have to go back and watch on those. Those for me. Yeah, maybe it'll be on an individual basis. For example, if I watched a video on lab-grown meat, right, and that video was sponsored by Impossible, I'm going to take a lot of the information with a big grain of salt. It's like, okay, clearly they're not going to touch on anything that might be a little less than savory with lab-grown meat. For example, one thing I read about recently with, I think it's Beyond, or it might be Impossible, one of the things they use in there to get it to look more like meat where it can bleed is actually pretty bad for you. Yeah. So some of the like meat substitutes.
Why would you want it to bleed? That's fucking weird. Like, yeah, I want to see my meat bleed all over my place. I want to see it bleed, boys, all over the place. That's what I want. Indeed, that's what I want now. Oh my god. Who would want that? It's, no offense meant to you if you do, kind of creepy if that's what you want. I would feel like maybe, you know, sometimes corporations are like, oh, you want this, right? And it's like, I guess we don't not want it. We don't, like, mind if it bleeds. I mean, does it need to? I mean, like, seems weird if it needs to. You know, like, that sort of thing. Like, companies do this thing where, like, they go, oh, I'm sure the customer wants this. And then they do test group, and the customer's like, we're not against it. And then they publish it. They release it. And they say, but no one wanted that. You just thought they did. That does happen. Sometimes it doesn't even hurt a company because it's just like, just people who review it are just like, well, who wanted this? Why is this in here? I don't know why. I mean, but they're not going to reduce sales.
Aren't like amazing for you. They're not significantly better than just having red meat in terms of like health benefits. But I feel like if that video was funded by Impossible, they're not going to mention that dye, or I don't think it's a dye. I don't remember what it is. They're not going to mention that agent in there isn't actually the best. So it would no longer be more of a educational take on it. It'd feel more like promoting the brand. So I guess it would truly depend on what the subject is and who's sponsoring it.
It is not enough to promise editorial independence because there are multiple ways sponsors can influence content behind the scenes. Kurzgesagt maintains their sponsors never
Look at
have
their
input
response
on
to this
their
video.
scripts, but
Oh,
in
they
practice,
responded? I'd like
they
to see their point,
routinely
or
consult
their
with
stance on all of it
researchers
as
that come
well.
from
So yeah, I'll do that
sponsor-funded
after this.
institutions or scientists directly on their sponsors' payroll.
Thanks to 10 gift
The
subs,
two
grapes.
videos
Appreciate that, man.
Kurzgesagt made with Max Roser were sponsored by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. But Max Roser's Our World in Data received almost $5 million from Bill Gates, so what is exactly the degree of separation here? In the video on vaccine side effects, Kurzgesagt lists 6 experts they consulted with, at least 4 of which are from Gates-funded institutions, and 1 scientist is an executive at the Gates Foundation. How is that not a sponsor commenting on their script? In 3 videos Kurzgesagt made for...
See, like when he makes a point like that, I am inclined to agree. At the very least, I don't doubt the experts. I'd be a fool to do that. But why wouldn't you go to something that's so...
But the issue is, the experts are wrong, we can see. The only problem is, sometimes experts aren't wrong so much as they are not experts. Am I an expert? Let's say I set up a website, or I pull information from Wikipedia, and I present it in nice little graphs. Am I an expert, or am I simply a source? You know? A source. I'm just a source. But where did I pull that from? Wikipedia. Where did Wikipedia get it from? You know? You're not talking about, like, trusted sources here. You know? If this was, that's my point. These aren't experts. These are billionaire funded institutions that are not experts. They are simply put sources. This is not, World Health Organization or anything like that. It's just not. You don't have, anyway.
So far removed from your sponsor, you couldn't possibly make an argument that it was influenced by it. That is just a big conflict of interest, and it shouldn't be hard to do. It seems like it just kind of boils down to laziness. Or, I guess, as this video argues, propaganda. I guess it really could be either one. In a case like that.
For the Templetown World Charity, at least 4 out of 6 scientists have received direct funding for the research from Templetown. In the Kurzgesagt video on long-termism, The Last Human, sponsored by Open Philanthropy, 2 out of 3 scientists are from the Oxford's Future of Humanity Institute. The institute, which received at least £15 million from Open Philanthropy. The one LMU Munich scientist was also at Oxford during the Open Philanthropy grants. There is no disclaimer of any of these associations anywhere in Kurzgesagt materials. Another long-termist video, the one on the civilizational collapse, was sponsored and researched by William McCaskill. Seemingly a random professor from Oxford University, McCaskill is behind the Center of Effective Altruism and a number of...
No, not nice people at all. Those are the, billionaires. Like, I think that we should pay this forward, but we should continue being billionaires. Definitely. That's the way to go about the place. We'll spend the money on that. Because we definitely better. Sam Bankman-Fried, I believe, was one of the major components in that little system. Look how that worked out. Turns out maybe it's bullshit.
Other charities that have received funding from Open Philanthropy, and some have funded Our World in Data. Nothing about this relationship is ever disclosed in Kurzgesagt source materials. Open Philanthropy has given...
Does it need to be though? I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, it needs to be.
Video. Would it being disclosed change the information? Was he presenting opinion pieces or just facts about the subject? Because that feels like it'd be something weird to disclose in the video, though I guess he could have done due diligence and talked about it in the description if it seems like it would have been.
Very weird how, it does happen. that because you only hear one voice, you assume, oh, it's one person, even though it's just not. It's tens of people behind the picture.
In a conflict.
Given Kurzgesagt more than 5 million euros to expand the channel into foreign languages and to promote long-term.
Wait, who gave that?
5 million euros.
It seems like it would have been a conflict.
Open planet breathing.
Given Kurzgesagt more than 5 million euros to expand the channel into foreign.
Long terminate.
Given Kurzgesagt more than 5 million euros.
Focus
to
area. Long term.
expand the channel into foreign languages and to promote long-termist philosophy and effective altruism in their videos.
Wait, hold on a second.
And to promote
Open Planet
long-termist
recommends
philosophy and effective altruism in their.
Hey, Open Planet recommends a contract of 2.4 million euro at the time of conversation over 2 years with Crusade. Channel. Yeah. About 1.2 million a year. That seems like a bit of a conflict of interest.
Their
Yeah.
videos. Do you think money doesn't buy influence? So billionaires do
That kind of feels like a sponsor section.
political lobbying.
You know,
and
like, do you think money doesn't? Well, with today's sponsor,
campaign financing for the lols, and they don't get heirs to do
see here?
political lobbying and
opportunities. FTX US boyos. Ooh, let's go to the max, huh? The Soros Fund Management. Oh my. Blackstone Group, once again, you know, Blackstone connected with BlackRock, the second biggest, no, not second biggest, the biggest investment. They have over 10 trillion in asset management. So,
campaign financing for the lols, and they don't get any laws influenced in their favor. Do billionaires buy
These are some
newspapers
thick.
and donate to media companies?
I keep seeing this perspective. Always trust greedy billionaires in the government. No one is fucking saying that, man. To boil down this, the people that you're getting your information from are also financially benefiting from it. Let's say I all of a sudden completely pivot and I'm preaching. Let me think of like a more topical example. I'm preaching about Pfizer turning you into a fucking shaky skeleton. Me preaching that to you and you subbing to me is giving me financial incentive to continue saying that. I'm playing into you and you are paying me for it. The same thing as if you were.
yes, but let's say you have a YouTube channel and you know it drags in, let's say, 1 million new viewers every week. And let's say because of the content it produces, 90% of them just say, no, I don't want to do that. That leaves you with 100,000 blue green. Now let's say if they kept those million people, right? Over time, it would grow to be worth 1 million a year. 1 million a year, that's a colossal amount to just chuck away like that. Surely you change to be like that. Oh, except no, because an industry gave them $1.1 million just to keep off that track. So now they follow them, and that's how that funding works. Because instead of really doing what the general public might want you to do, the general public, by the way, are also influenced by the media they consume. Which is kind of like if you slowly began to become anti-Pfizer and Charlie, you are my only source, I might begin to believe that. Because you will be the one telling me that. Do you understand? I come to you for information. If I trust you as a source, then I start to believe you. So unless you're not critiquing this is literally the point.
You're just paying a greedy corporation. Now you're just paying me as I'm feeding you this information. It's financial incentives all the way down the line, bro. What you need
Yeah,
to
but the point is though is that I don't. Like, I could probably make more, not more money, but like I could probably get more views by just like watching topical videos. You know, YouTube shorts. You know, reactions to trailers for movies, that sort of stuff. I could probably get more views for that because it would have pretty bog standard, pretty agreeable, but famous content, right? Pretty like, yeah, this is a new movie. What does this person think? You know, that's the thing. I watch that. That would probably get more views. You know? But I choose instead to spend the time I make reaction videos doing this because I feel like this is more, you know, better for you to spend your time doing than looking at movie trailers.
do is look at all sides of everything, and then you form your own conclusions.
But where are all the sides? This is the issue I've had with so many the idea. Oh, do your research, man. To do your research, you would have to devote your entire life to doing your research. Do you understand that? Every day you have to spend doing your research, and that's great. Now you'd know what was possibly false and possibly wrong based off of the science, but oh wait, you don't know the science, so now you have to study all the sciences as well. You don't have the ability to do that. You can't know for sure. That's why you put your trust in media outlets. And maybe your trust is well founded. Maybe they have scientists that they can trust. Maybe they have journalists they can trust. Maybe they have sources that they can trust. Or maybe your trust is misplaced and you trust the wrong media outlets. You can't.
And you form your own stance on it as opposed to blindly following one camp or the other. That's how
one camp or the other. You know? It's just objectively not. You know, you can't just go, well, yeah, one camp or the other. No. You have different brains and all this stuff, you know?
should work. No matter who you're going to, you are financially benefiting them. Even if you don't give me
no, actually. If you watch this video, you're not financially benefiting me directly. I guess maybe if you kept watching and if you shared it, maybe. But even then, you just by watching, I guess maybe if you, just by watching, if you were to, you know, get YouTube to give it to other people, they were to watch it as well, then maybe eventually I'd get monetized. But as of this moment, I am not monetized. You did not watch, well, if you did watch an ad, I did not run that ad. I did not get money from this video. I was not paid to make this video. So by watching this video, I'm not financially benefiting off this.
money, you being here gives me money if
He is, in that moment.
I run an ad. So I have financial incentive to continue to feed you that shit to keep you coming back. So look at all the camps and you form your own fucking opinion instead of blindly following one or the other. It's just that simple.
It's not one or the other. And it's not just that simple. Clearly a misunderstanding of how media works.
It is super easy. That's how it should work.
You.
Instead of
ignorant aegis. This is the same as like, oh, everyone's invested in lab-grown meat.
just like going to this fucking tribalism. That's just, it's so dumb.
Companies to support independent.
Oh God, almighty, like this is. Oh my. Apparently, there's two camps of media. I mean, I guess it would be easy. To be fair, it would be easy if there were just two camps of media. Join the non-fascists.
What happened to the COVID-19 vaccine
that,
developed by the University of Oxford? Researchers originally planned to release their vaccine patent for free.
I think he's a capitalistic, moronic idiot, but maybe not an idiot, maybe just playing a fucking moron, an idiot. But don't think he's fascist, which kind of proves my point. It's not a two-camp thing. You know? There's a scale.
So that third world countries could manufacture their doses faster instead of waiting for the rich countries to donate the vaccines to them.
And who do you think stopped him from doing that?
Until Bill Gates stepped in and forced the university to partner with a manufacturer and not release their patents. Against the pleas of the WHO and the developing world that patents would stifle vaccine access, Gates used his $750 million leverage to change a university's course. And he did this to protect the interests of big pharmaceutical companies he has been investing in for decades, which resulted in the global vaccine apartheid and possibly millions of preventable deaths. Money buys influence. It buys it in politics, it buys it in science, it gets you favorable coverage in the media. Gates poured $300
Favorable
million
coverage in the
into
media. This guy gets
companies.
shit on all the
Kurzgesagt
time.
being
Are you a fucking idiot? Two camps of media, lads. He gets shit on all over the media. I wonder, maybe in your weird world where there's only two different types of media, maybe that's the other type of media. You know, except sometimes some people are objectively bad. You know, like a socialist person who also, you know, regularly rapes people. Yeah, that person isn't good to either side. If you're a fascist, they're not really good because they're a socialist, or kind of not really socialist. You know what I mean, like they have some socialist ideology, but socialist, well, that's not great for me. They're not really great for that either. You know, so both sides should dump that person. Both sides should be dump Bill Gates, except. Wait for it. Looks like Bill isn't it both sided hated. Looks like maybe Bill might be a one side hated. You know. And then, you know, a couple of stupid articles and stupid media outlets, you know, for example, like sort of like misunderstand the slow burn system. You know. But you know.
being one of them. Ask yourself,
Bill Gates is a
when
terrible
was the
example
last
for
time
that.
you read a critical piece on Gates or his foundation? If
Today.
Kurzgesagt wants
Yesterday.
to
The day
maintain they
before.
are able
Everywhere.
to decouple the interests
You
of
regularly read stuff like that? Do you think it's not like? Imagine if you know, like you saw a piece of content was like sponsored by the Nazi Party of you know. It's like I feel like that should be reaction should be, yeah, no, that content is you they should not accept that sponsorship. You know, I feel like that's if you think that he's bad, then why would they accept that sponsorship? I fucking wouldn't. The only way you'll ever see Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation sponsored my video is if you know, if my channel gets hacked or gets like seized or something like that. You know, I wouldn't have done it willingly. I mean, maybe if I was like, you know, willingly, if I like strapped me down to a machine and like changed my mind that way. I don't know.
their funding source from the content in their videos? Does this mean that we'll soon get to see a cutely animated character of Bill Gates meeting up with Jeffrey Epstein at his private venues after he was convicted sex trafficker?
Science is...
This has gone really off the rails from targeting the channel
when big
itself.
money buys big influence, science...
This is things.
Point is that the channel cooks propaganda for billionaires. It's more about the industry of media and, you know, propaganda for billionaires. It's not really about the channel itself. You know, it's about how it.
People
It's
have talked
always
about
the
a lot
casualty.
already.
If we are not able to ask skeptical questions, to interrogate those who tell us that something is true, to be skeptical of those in authority,
It becomes less diverse, more stringent, and more authoritative.
then we're up for grabs for the next charlatan, political or religious, who comes ambling along.
In the academic community, there is a phenomenon called the chilling effect. It occurs when scientists self-censor or refuse to speak out against the
What?
funding source. Chilling effect. It occurs when scientists self-censor or refuse to speak out against the funding source of their institutions out of fear of losing support or getting sacked. With the Gates Foundation, they refer to it as the Bill Chill. Gates' funding priorities have worried scientists for stifling diversity of views for decades. His philanthropic funding made it difficult
Oh, it's
to find
awful. Like, awful. You know.
independent reviewers. Through his multi-billion-dollar empire of donations and investments, Gates amassed enough power to single-handedly
Clev and
influence
toxic.
policies of global and national governing bodies. When Gates Foundation pours money into a project, they end up having enough power to veto public policies that don't align with their charity's priorities.
Then in every other giant fucking lobbyist, why are we no longer talking about the YouTube channel that this video is supposed to be focusing on? Why are we going into the bill?
No, but it's not supposed to be focusing on them though. It's focused on how they cook propaganda for billionaires. These being said billionaires. Buddy, this is who the propaganda is for. They listed all the things where Bill Gates like invests in all these companies. They pointed out how they tell you to invest in these companies. They pointed out how you should ignore, you know, well, you should ignore. Like they point out how that they are ignoring all the issues. Now they're pointing out how, you know, the billionaires are able to use this propaganda. Do you see the
Bill Gates
fact that the
stuff.
video
That is completely
is
irrelevant to the
ending?
channel that we're talking about.
It's ending.
We've completely lost the plot in this now.
No,
'Cause he's
but the
gonna-
video is okay. Look at how much time there is till the video ends. This is the wrapping up section.
Conspiracy nut. I don't know the channel. I couldn't tell you. All the way up until here, I don't think there were a lot of reaches, but I don't think it was necessarily conspiratorial or anything like that. I don't know why he's going off in this tangent when it doesn't
Oh my
play
God.
any role at all in the actual subject matter. I would like to see their response. I think there are a couple of decent points that I think are absolutely 100% on.
The video is coming to an end, so they're wrapping it up by pointing out how it's an issue. You know, they've discussed how the channel cooks propaganda, and now they're talking about how it's bad that they do this propaganda.
on them on
As you fucking asked already, how is it bad? This is how.
the nose. It should absolutely be more clear when a video is at least partially funded by a fund, a grant, or sponsor's the wrong word because it's not like technically a sponsor, but falling in a gray area isn't a good look either. It should be disclosed, video description and the beginning of the video, which is the common accepted, and I'm pretty sure like the only legal way of disclosing sponsorship when it comes.
No. YouTube way. Legal, once again, they're an issue because it is dubious which laws do they follow because they're on an American site, but also they're probably not an American company. Who knows though?
Comes to YouTube videos. Otherwise, you're in an actual violation. So it is shady that it's only the last 10, 15, 20 seconds of the video that he mentions that. I think that is a actual very important thing to call out because again, like a lot of people mentioned, seeing that kind of stuff makes you kind of question the motive. So you need to be upfront about it. And then it's obviously going to be up to the individuals on whether or not that skews the data or changes their perspective on the information. But I think it's important to be transparent And then the other thing that he made a good point on is the fact that they keep using the exact same aggregator for their sources, the R World, which is also funded by their grant. That is pure laziness
The experts they talk to are funded by the same billionaires.
at best, and at worst, trying to paint everything in a more positive light for their grant. The people that controlled their money. They should have used more than just that source so many times. And they do use other sources, but that is by far their biggest one, at least
No,
from
but the point is there are other sources that are also from the same sort of group of people.
everything we've seen here. Oh, this is the link to their response. Very cool, thank you.
Okay,
So this is
not
them
laying into
disputing the claim that most of their investment comes from the grant as well as the VCs and such, citing that 65% comes from the shop, ad revenue, and Patreon. So they are still independent, not primarily funded by VCs.
Yeah. Once again, not an argument like, yeah, they only give us over $1 million a year. Like, imagine them like, yeah, no, man, I'm not biased at all towards William. I mean, he only gives me $1 million a year. $1 million seems like quite a lot of money, actually. $1 million a year. Yeah, seems like significant amount of money. Significant amount of money, actually. For this one person.
So organizational sponsors like Gates Foundation and Open Philanthropy represent 13%. The fact that you're saying sponsor in this, though, means that you should play by sponsor rules, and instead of just relegating that to the last 20 seconds, it needs to be in the front of the video and in the description. That is how it's always been done. That's how it should be done. I think that's still a very fair critique. You're even calling them a sponsor here. So this is now talking about the Open Philanthropy one. And they're claiming that it was only used for translating videos and creating for TikTok, which I think makes a lot of sense. I imagine they would go to something like that to translate all the videos to branch out into the big platforms like TikTok.
Okay, but why would a philanthropy organization give you millions to make animated videos? You know, like, yeah, we need to solve world hunger, homelessness, and I mean, there's just not enough videos that are animated in Spanish. You know, Spanish people are just not getting enough of those videos. So really need to get some to dub this thing, because, like, wow, we just that. Alright, so $1 million a year, so they can go onto and TikTok as well. I mean, it's not like. So basically, so you want to target Chinese people and people who don't speak English or German. Okay. That's your philanthropic aims there. Interesting.
And reach a wider audience from different languages. It includes 2 sponsored videos. I think this is a fair point, but this is something that a lot of video game journalists always rely on. For example, like when you get a review copy of a game from a developer you have a good relationship with, you're less likely to give it a harsh review because you don't want to burn that bridge.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why people view it as a conflict of interest. If you're being sponsored, at least in part, by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and the topic you're talking about kind of touches on some things they're involved in, you're less likely to be critical of it.
Yeah.
That's why people view it more as like a conflict thing, which is why it should be disclosed earlier on that this is in part funded by some of that money. Now, of course, I'm not saying they are. I have no way of knowing if they are, but that's why it's perceived that way. I still think this is a fair point.
How?
I understand that it's probably, and in fact, I know it is a pretty good source, and I know it's an aggregator for a lot of information.
our world today is not a good source. Like, objectively, it's like seen as like not a good source. And even, you know, like even just general.
But at the very least, I still think for this scale, they should be using multiple sources for these things.
Also, our world data is like a graphing thing. So like, they are picking and choosing their sources. What I'm saying is our world data is not I don't think our world data is a, you know, source. It's just a source. As I said, if I just created a website that took from Wikipedia and posted like graphs there, sure, I'm creating a graph from information from Wikipedia. But the point is, the actual information within that graph is from Wikipedia. That's where I got it from. So is our world data actually going out there and collecting information? Or are they getting their information from elsewhere? And as we can see, the information is very inaccurate.
Instead of just relying on the same one. Especially because, as they mention, it is at least receiving funding from the same foundation that they have as well. So at the very least, just for the sake of optics, why not use other sources to corroborate the data? It shouldn't be that hard. I imagine there's plenty of...
It wouldn't even be that hard, even just like, you know, to have the same information. Like, just keep our world and then just get another source that corroborates them. But you could probably even just set up another website. Like it's not that hard.
Of other equally reliable sources for a lot of the topics they want to cover. Are they in trouble? It depends. For a lot of people, this ruins their ability to take the channel seriously and like believe everything they're being told by the channel. And for others, it's viewed as a nothing burger, where it's like, well, this just kind of means like this
like that. Little nod to that.
This whole video was just a hit piece where optimism equal propaganda. And I'm not saying either side's right or wrong here.
I mean, another YouTuber who was sponsored by Bill Gates was Mark Rober. You know, an awful man. No offense meant to him. Like seriously, not a nice guy. He also accepted a sponsorship from, I believe, DraftKings, which is the fantasy sports gambling company. So, you know, getting your fans addicted to gambling. That's great, Mark. We love that, to see that. You really need that extra, you know, like that gambling money for elephant toothpaste. That's great. Yeah. So great stuff there. He was also sponsored to like feed a burger to Bill Gates, a fake burger. Sponsored by Bill Gates. Ugh.
Because it is kind of an interesting situation. I think the video made some good points, but then some bad ones, like way off ones. Oh, here, they're even talking about using others. So then just also cite that. I feel like there's nothing wrong with citing that as well, in addition to these, so that way it doesn't look like it's just all coming from our world. Also just cite from your independent fact checkers and their sources.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And you immediately tackle the problem. If you're already doing more than just using this, then cite them as well. I feel like that's only fair to them too. They do cite it? Where? I even went into the, which one was it? This one? And it's all our world. So why not just also drop them? One video. Okay, I guess we'll go to another one, but even still, I'm assuming they also use their fact checkers for that one, right? Well, why not just cite them there?
Hey,
well,
what's going on?
This is where that guy got all the our world, and here's two others. But our world is the one that pops up so often, which is what the whole video was talking about. I think this is the one where there's 81 cited sources and,
you know, just let's be factual.
And 27 are our world. So why not just also include the other ones that corroborated this data? Is what I'm saying. Why are we not talking about that? because it's a good source. I get that, but you're not understanding. As they also admit, it is partially funded by the Gates Foundation, which they also receive funding from. So why not, for the full sake of like everything being, honky-dory, also confirm it with their fact checkers that I'm assuming they already used to do that.
For any viewers who are still watching this, I'm gonna bet about a significant number of money that the majority have left, because this video is about 3 hours long at this point. When you see this, you do have to wonder, like, there are many ignorant viewers, aren't they? Like, still, you can see the rot. Oh my.
And then just cite that here as well, as an additional source. It's a good source. Why would they go to a less funded source? Because they are receiving funding from the same source. It is a bad look. If I am making a video about
it's not
Impossible Meat and it being great, why am I going to only use Impossible Meat to corroborate my data? It would look bad, which is what this whole fucking thing stemmed from. And it could have been avoided if they also just cited their fact checkers instead of only using our world for these certain instances. I get they use other sources, but when a third of it comes from the same source that is also funded by your sponsor, it looks bad. What are we not understanding? This is what it all boiled down to. They agree like a paragraph down. I haven't even finished, but they are literally agreeing from everything I've seen here. But they're also giving very clear, very clear evidence that they are not primarily funded by these foundations, these organizations. They're not primarily sponsor funded. They are independent, which immediately blasts home the idea that they are a propaganda machine when their financial incentives don't make sense. If only 4% of their revenue comes from these organizations, why the fuck would they bend the knee to them as opposed to the people that actually fund them?
because, buddy boy, imagine if someone gave you $1 million. Would you reject that just for a little bit of agreeing? I think you misunderstand. Percentages mean nothing when you're talking about millions of dollars every single year. Millions every single year. Imagine if you will, that you're not a rich YouTuber. Charlie, imagine you're not a rich YouTuber and someone comes up to you and says, I'm going to give you access to $10 million a year. I know. $10 million a year. Right. But one small thing. You will need for $1 million, you will need to agree with certain viewpoints and just ignore some stuff. But for a bit of content, it's fine. But we just need you to agree. Just 1 million, okay? Just this 1 million. Are you gonna turn that down? That extra million? Sure, you can live without it. But it's over $1 million, boy. You'd want an extra million, wouldn't you? You clearly would, you greedy moron.
Them. And here, right here, you're right. Even agreeing with that. It's just a matter of being a little more open with it. Instead of jumping to this extreme, it could have been this one. Literally what I am fucking saying. Holy shit.
Okay, so they didn't say they were literally put by a billionaire. They said how that cooks propaganda for billionaires. And guess what, boys? You're kinda too. Let's be honest. You know? Even if I got no financial incentive from billionaires, if I started repeating the same viewpoints as you, I would be making propaganda for the billionaires. That's the thing. If I just copied what you said. So it doesn't really even matter if you get funding, because you are ignoring evidence. You are ignoring sources. You are ignoring science to help them out. So even if you weren't given any money by them, you are still helping them. You are still presenting their image that they want to present. Anyway.
Very interesting, though. They're literally not propaganda, though. Yeah, this video didn't make any convincing arguments or compelling arguments
I mean, you're just a fucking idiot then.
to convince me that they're a propaganda machine. But it did point out things that I do think they have done improperly. Nothing that I think ruins the channel for me or anything,
I
but
really don't like MoistCr1tikal. Like, and this is not like a new thing. Like, for a good while, I was like, ugh, you know, he's not very nice fella, you know. But just this slow, just the more I watch him, it's like bit of brain rot, you know, bit of brain rot, bit fucking stupid, you know, just a bit, you know. It's not exactly not the best. Like, I reacted to Hassan before. I don't necessarily agree with everything Hassan has to say, but he's clearly less brain dead than this fucker. You know? It's clearly less biased than him. Because the thing is, I can understand. You're a person who doesn't experience themselves. They don't watch left-wing content. They don't look at critiques of billionaires. They don't look at critiques like this. It's understandable. You know, you are not going to think, oh, look, lads, the billionaires are bad. Where are you going to get that from, right? Because it's like, maybe, oh, their actions. But their actions are hidden from you. When you're this fella, you've watched that. You've looked at that. You're rejecting it. You're going, no, their studies are good. No, they're good, so they just shouldn't use them because they're a conflict of interest. They're not a good source. They're not. So, I know that was his year, by the way. But like that's the point. They're not a good source. So what I'm trying to say is, don't tell. This is disgusting sort of levels. Someone who isn't ignorant, really, they're just either stupid or evil.
definitely some things that I think they should work on.
So,
Well, they'd be again, I don't just why am I going to explain it for the fifth fucking time? At this point, just watch it yourself. Christ. I have summarized it like fucking 15 times at this point. The guy made the video for clout. I don't know the channel. I don't know anything about the channel. I think the video could have been made from a place of like genuine concern for the truthfulness of information, but then lost the...
It's a sad state of affairs, isn't it? This is our world. We see. Stupid man. Stupid man. Is this another one? Another stupid person? Is it? You know?
Place of like genuine concern for the truthfulness of information, but then lost the plot halfway through.
No,
and started
not
to
really.
immediately
You just
immediately jumped to the conclusion that it must all be propaganda because some things were a little improperly handled.
No, it's not.
Again, I think one of the big
It is, though.
glaring
Those
things
videos, though.
is he mentions the carbon emissions video, and he literally he cites a source that didn't exist when the video was made.
The point is, buddy, that the facts didn't change. If you conduct a scientific study and you miss all that, you conducted a bad scientific study. We didn't suddenly jump in emissions in 2 fucking years. China's emissions in India didn't suddenly just drop and ours increase. The study was a bad study. They used a bad study. So, what they couldn't have done was use that study. But they were never going to, really. Because they don't use those studies. Do you think it would be a bit weird if they started using that study and then outright contradicting our world in data? Don't you think it would be a little bit weird? Oh, our world in data is super reliable, lads, but we did have to change our study up because our world in data was completely fucking wrong.
Is not a fair critique. That's not a fair point. That is just a wrong point.
No, but
you can't.
Okay, I understand. Okay, to be fair, Hayden probably should not have used that study in particular because that one is published afterwards. That's fair. But once again, they used an incorrect study. If they didn't make the video, you know, that might be okay. If all that. But the fact is, the study they used was wrong. If you wanted to say they should have used a study that wasn't funded by Bill Gates, fine. They weren't able to use that one because, you know, it wasn't out yet. Fine. But they did use a study that is objectively incorrect. Those facts do not change. So,
Critique a video for something that didn't exist when it was made.
did the hit one say they should have used this story in the video? No, they were simply pointing out the fact that our world in data is wrong and see this study, this one. They should have probably said that it was a different date, but they didn't. This one is an outright contradiction.
Like, again, there were things in that video that I think were way off mark.
And the thing
but then
you're
also,
taking though from
he
it
did
is
make
not good. You're jumping into going, oh, defending them. Missing the entire point.
a couple, I think, very good points about how this channel should be improved in regards to its transparency, especially with its sponsors and their sources.
Don't accept sponsors.
It
from
really
you know what? Don't accept sponsors in general from these kind of companies or institutions. Don't accept sponsors from NordVPN. Don't accept sponsors from ExpressVPN. Don't accept sponsors from Skillshare or, Bill Gates or Philanthropy or any of these companies. Don't accept sponsors from Scentbird. Don't accept sponsors from Squarespace. Don't accept sponsors from Audible. Don't accept sponsors from Keeps. Don't accept sponsors for any of these people. Anyway.
Boils down mainly to that so far, at least for me. Maybe you might feel differently. But to me, it just highlighted that this channel needs to be more transparent when it is funded at least partially by an organization.
My point about all those companies is that they're bad for, the consumer or the people behind them. That's my point. So, yeah.
Organization, and also making it seem like they're less reliant on just one source for the majority of their information. I think this was a very insightful conversation, if nothing else.
Mm.
This was a very interesting topic all around.
Yeah, has damaged my view of MoistCr1tikal. Didn't really think he was a great fella overall. Like defending Mr. Beast in a very weird way before I remember. Like there's many reasons to defend Mr. Beast, but one thing I really hate is when people use Beast philanthropy. Like you can't use that. Objectively, you can't. Oh, all the money you donate and you make from watching ads, I'll donate to charity. Great stuff, man. That's fantastic. You'll donate my money to charity that I gave you to donate to charity? That's, how charities are supposed to work. I guess you're not admitting to defrauding a charity. That's basic. Don't use that. You know, the Squid Game thing of, like making a game out of a show that was about poverty, saying, oh, well, that, but didn't the Netflix do that? Well, no, Netflix actually made a show about critiquing poverty. Yeah, Netflix shouldn't have done that. Netflix should not have made that game show about Squid Game. But these are the points. You can't just go, oh, no, this bad as well, so this is fine. I'm sorry. Yeah, they're both bad. Is that not understandable to people? Can you not understand that two things can be bad? It doesn't have to be one thing and the other thing good. It doesn't have to be both good. You can have both bad. That's an option.
And I think this was probably not the right channel to target, but there are actual channels that are propaganda machines. Plenty. So I think it
does. Yeah.
Does highlight like an issue, albeit a bit incorrectly, with the one that it chose. I think it's an interesting topic. How much are they paying you? Shit, man, not enough, I guess. I'll need to tap into that Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation paycheck pretty soon.
Well, fucking idiot. Now, I'm just gonna end this video with the last section you didn't actually play because I feel like that's a bad thing to do. You should play the whole thing, or just not post it. To be fair, when you're going live, I guess when you're live, it's fine because you're like, well, actually, no, I'm not interested in this anymore. I would have basically kind of really oh, I wouldn't have posted this. Was this a video? That kind of thing.
In November 2016, kurzgesgt published a video on the...
just go to the level where it is. So, basically, when discussing this, I think, yeah, my opinion of MoistCr1tikal is not great. Was not great beforehand, as I said, but yeah, I think most people would probably, I would say, be on the side of this. Apologies for that. Advertisements, basically, yeah, I don't think it's a hated one, but I mean, it's a bit, I guess it's the issue with this thing. You should have targeted that channel. It feels a bit like you shouldn't have, insulted the mob boss. Maybe. That doesn't mean it's okay, though. It does not mean it's okay. Anyway. I'll have to wait a bit for that thing to come in. Oh.
Foundation, they refer to it as the Bill Chill. Gates' funding priorities have worried scientists for stifling diversity of views for decades. His philanthropic funding made it difficult to find find independent reviewers.
Yes.
Through his multi-billion-dollar empire of donations and investments, Gates amassed enough power to single-handedly influence policies of global and national governing bodies. When Gates Foundation pours money into a project, they end up having enough power to veto public policies that don't align with their charity's priorities.
Like, is that not something that most people should have covered as, you know, kind of bad? But oh no, we're moving beyond the channel at this point. Like, you know, this is just the effects of the channel. Do you think that's not important? Like,
we need to have a serious debate. Is big money lobbying a problem only if it's for issues we don't like? Or is it a problem on principle? This is how Kurzgesagt views the fossil fuel lobbyists.
see, they didn't cover that. He didn't cover that. No. Skip past the video there. No, cover that. You know, don't cover the bias. This is the issue. Watch the full video. You know? Don't like it when reaction like this thing. You should probably. I feel like if you're gonna be a reactor, you should probably not react to stuff you're gonna be critiquing on live necessarily, because unless you always watch it all, and the only reason you'd ever like not watch it is because if it like is explicit or something like that, or like kind of bad in that sense. Because then obviously you don't want to be, you know, showing that. But, you know, this is not, like, this is just basic sort of.
Evil villains trying to influence our politicians and mislead the public with their money. Kurzgesagt clearly understands the problem of big money, but they don't seem to have a problem with when they are on the receiving end of the big money influencing policies and public opinion. Billionaires have hacked the system by which we measure the merits of arguments in science and public discourse. With the sheer wealth, they brute force their ideas into the mainstream by giving their interests more funding for research, more coverage in the media, and higher likelihood of becoming a public policy. This system is beyond broken, especially for a studio as big as Kurzgesagt. Back in 2017, Kurzgesagt admitted in their Medium article they would actually be able to do away with sponsors altogether and rely on their Patreon supporters, ad revenue, and merch. They also have a design studio branch that makes commission work for big
Like, that's like something else, isn't it?
name clients. So why haven't the channel got rid of sponsors yet? They are already funded by the German state, and they sold courses on Brilliant and Skillshare. Why not maintain?
No, not nice. Not a nice thing to do. That's not nice. No. Skillshare. Fuck that company. No. Not a nice company.
Integrity.
You can afford to make less, make less.
By the very least, Kurzgesagt should be more transparent and disclose sponsorship at the beginning of their videos so that people can make the decision before they watch the video and not afterwards.
Yeah.
But transparency alone would not fix the conflict of interest and perverse incentives. Journalists, educators,
you mind Johnny Harris for propaganda? This fella was caught for like being paid by the experience he was looking at.
And media outlets should not take money from entities they are supposed to be critically covering. Tobacco advertising has been banned almost universally across the globe. It isn't the only lobby that's been found influencing academia, education, and media with their funding. Billionaires seek to do the same. There is no such thing as a free gift. Did you notice that throughout this entire video, there was no segue to a sponsored segment? That's because this channel has never taken a single sponsorship deal. None. With my current ad revenue, I can honestly proclaim.
So 47,000 views for $77. So about less than $2 a view. Sorry, less than $2 per 1,000 views. 120 views in the space of in space of 48 hours for a single video. Pretty good.
That the Hated One channel is indeed almost entirely viewer funded. Without my Patreon supporters, this video wouldn't happen. So if you'd like to support actual independent content, please join my Patreon today. You'll be
I mean, I don't really like the sign of like exclusive merch on Patreon. I looked at that. It's not really good. It, you know.
be greatly rewarded with an exclusive podcast and merch. Thank you.
So, yeah. Basically, I think that, you know, yeah, when it comes down to it, MoistCr1tikal really should not have just skipped off this video. The end bit is very important, and often is in videos like this, where, you know, a lot of it is trying to cover all points, and sometimes by trying to cover all points, you get a bit off topic. That happens to me. You don't really necessarily cover points that are, you know, some people would say they don't really matter. That sort of stuff. And yeah. I mean, that is a 3-month-old video that got 1.5 million views. So, you know, like, it seems to have done well for the channel. You know, I would say my channel tends to get, you know, less views than it does subscribers. And well, this channel does also appear to be in the same sort of position as that, if you know what I mean. Like, that kind of situation where, you know, they have like 421,000 you know, subscribers, but when you look at like the likes of the views, 96,000, 41,000, 82,000, 33,000, 13,000, 106,000, you know, 51,000. These channels are kind of interesting because they're not, you know, keeping the subscribers in. If you want to subscribe to my channel, go ahead. You know, go ahead. I guess. But anyway, that's that. I would say simply this. I mean, this is my problem when people say, "Oh, YouTube is blacklisting my channel." For example, there was a YouTuber that was like, "Oh, you know, Google is evil because they let Russia Today steal my videos," and it's like, did they though? Because the kind of ways you did things were like, "Oh, they desaturated the video and that passed copyright." That does not. That no. That does not pass copyright. I'm sorry to break it to you, but if they just desaturated the video, that would not pass copyright. There's all these sort of things. The channels before who have been like, oh, you know, these people are bad. Sometimes they themselves are a bit of a dodgy situation here, and you know, it's a bit, yeah, you know. Anyway, so yeah, goodbye then.